Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Mike. Welcome to the September 1st, 2020 Board of Commissioners meetings. Please silence your cell phones, pagers, and other electronic communication devices. Agendas are located at the back of the chambers. The commission now utilizes speaker request forms. If you'd like to speak today on any item, they are in the back of the bookcases there. And then just give your speaker request form to Miss Holly, who's at the left of our dais today. First, we'll have a moment of silent reflection and then a pledge of allegiance led by Department Head Mike Cool, Buildings and Grounds.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Indivisible? Did you say indivisible? Did you say indivisible? You're funny. Next, we'll have the review and approval of the agenda, please.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Drews, second by LaCroy. Roll call, please.
DeSanto,
Here,
Drews,
vote aye.
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye. Motion is approved. Next is item number 5, recognition of new employees from March to August 2020. HR Department, we did that at 8:30 this morning. Again, welcome to all the new employees. And thank you, HR, for bringing everybody forward and have them meet with us today. Next, we'll have the consent agenda. Ms. Holly?
Good morning, Commissioners. Holly Hennies, Commission Manager. The Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the Board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or citizen. Today's consent agenda contains the following item: approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of August 18th, 2020.
Thank you, Ms. Holly.
So move.
Next is anybody in the public? Is there anyone in the public who wishes to speak on item number 6 today? If not, is there any commissioner who would like to speak on number 6 today? Not, roll call, please.
There was only a first. Who seconded it?
Oh,
I second it.
motion by Drews, a
No.
motion by LaCroy, second by Drews.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Item number 7 from the sheriff, Kevin Tome, please. Fleet vehicle purchase.
Morning, Kevin Tome, Pennington County Sheriff. This follow-up from the previous meeting where you surplus vehicles and authorized us bidding out some replacement vehicles, largely from hail damage. And normally we get newer used vehicles, but between COVID and hail, none of the dealerships had used vehicles available, so they bid new vehicles, which generally costs us maybe 10 or 15% more. That's why we like to buy the program ones. But so we bring this to you this morning, asking for approval to purchase the vehicles and the motions outlined in the memo. So,
We have discussion or a motion, please.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
Kevin, do you think with this COVID-19 that the availability of the vehicles, those scarcer this year than other years?
do you think what now?
Well, with the COVID-19, I understand it's kind of hard to buy a new vehicle nowadays. So I just wondered if that was a problem when we went out to look for cars this year.
Yeah, I don't know what the long-term impact's going to be, but like I said, between COVID and then hail, there's no vehicles left on the lots. It made availability pretty scarce. Yep.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Thank you. Commissioner LaCroy, please.
move for approval.
Moved by LaCroy,
Second.
second by Drews. Roll call, please.
Follow up, please.
Commissioner LaCroy.
When I was reading through this, I just wanted to comment, Mr. DeSanto has been a heavy hitter on asking about gas mileage and so forth since he's been on here. I just wanted to point out you got one that's a 4-cylinder turbo and looked like the kind of followed those guidelines. So I just wanted to shout that out to Mark.
Appreciate it, Lloyd.
Any other discussion? If not, roll call, please.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
I
Ross Connect.
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Items from Buildings Ground Director Mike Cool, please.
Good morning. I'm Mike Cool, Buildings and Grounds. The state of South Dakota has established this local government COVID recovery fund with federal funds allocated by the CARES Act to reimburse local governments for their response to COVID-19. The state, as one of the items that's eligible under this recovery act, is air purifying equipment for buildings. So after some investigation with other departments, we're seeking authorization to install air purification or ionization equipment at our HVAC air handlers in a number of buildings. This technology, which this particular is GPS NPBI system, uses charged particles to clean the airstream as it comes into an air handler. Basically, the ionization is charged particles will destroy pathogens coming into the facility, but it also does other things like reduce particles that are circulated through the building by charging particles and causing them to clump together, which allows them to be captured in our filter system a little more easily. It also helps reduce odors in buildings. When we're able to capture these particles better through the filtration system, it helps keep the equipment cleaner, reduces our maintenance costs and energy use in the buildings. I did include a document that kind of outlines how this works. I've kind of given you a brief summary. I'm certainly no expert in the technology. I will note that the engineers and HVAC tech people who have become aware of this technology are choosing to install this in their own homes. So as a kind of a sidebar to lead some credibility to it. We've reviewed with the auditor's office and the state's attorney's office, we've reviewed how we might procure this equipment. We are allowed to purchase under state law utilizing existing contracts that were competitively let. We have determined that an existing contract exists that would allow us to do that. So that's how we would like to purchase this. Right now, we've priced out a proposal that includes the jail annex, public safety building, and B&G buildings, the care campus, and juvenile services centers. These buildings were originally selected when we began looking at this, mainly because we thought that this was before we knew much about the COVID relief fund. We thought that there was going to be money available related to correctional or holding facilities and law enforcement. So that's how we proceeded as we began investigating this, and that's how it's been priced. Through this work, we haven't found any reason why we couldn't install these within other buildings as well. So I'm here today to request authorization to move forward with this proposal that includes those buildings, and we'll get to with that approval, we'll go ahead and start working on putting in a proposal, putting together another proposal for other buildings. As it does require some work to go through and look at each individual air handler and stuff and figure out what's required at each one, so.
Madam Chair, if I can offer a comment too. We originally brought this idea to Mike and worked with his people, and they did a lot of research on it. And we also worked with the state to get it pre-approved as a COVID-related expense, which they did agree to. And particularly in our enclosed facilities like the jail and JSC, where you got, people confined in a small, relatively small area, the circulation and this system, I think, is critical, not just for COVID, but for, like Mike said, all pathogens will make a difference in our facilities. So ask for your support on it.
Thank you. Discussion, board?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Drews?
Speaking strictly from myself, in June, I had the air handling system changed in my home, and I did install a similar system to this. For a person that has lots of different allergies, we do not open our home. We don't have screens on the windows. Everything is closed up. And in the 3 months that we've had it, it's a very noticeable difference for us personally. So these are good systems. One of the things I like about it, for ours at home, is that it eliminates mold also. So if you have mold any place, it purifies that air for that too. So it's a good deal, I think.
Thank you, Commissioner Drews. Commissioner Roskinick, or LaCroy?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is a good idea. And then it'd be kind of a tough decision for me if we didn't have the CARES Act to do this. But I think, as Mr. Drews just said, we've got plenty of employees and so forth for the allergies and so forth. I'm a little curious about, when I was reading through this, about the cost savings of the energy. I thought it said somewhere around 50% or something along those lines.
30%.
30% saving. So I was a little curious about that. And my only other thought is, when I look at some of these systems, I'm glad you guys did the research, but, I put like a pretty intense water system in a property that I have. I can see the results instantly. Is there a way to measure the before and after of this? And as you say, the cleaning, I think I read through it, it's self-cleaning somewhere along those lines. And so I'm just a little curious of what, the ongoing costs of the maintenance upkeep. I think you got a lot of work ahead of you on this because of the air duct systems and figuring out where they're going to go and so forth. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes right now. And the mechanical engineer is going to have to really go through their system to figure out how to install it. But I think for the CARES Act and for the benefit of our employees and also our tenants, I think this is going to be well needed.
Thank you.
Could I respond?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your comments, Commissioner LaCroy. In this case, we have most of this figured out already. These things get installed ahead in the airstream coming into the air handler ahead of the filters. As I indicated, they charge the particles that are in the air, cause them to clump together or destroy any pathogens just because of the charged particles as well. That's how this thing manages to clean things, is by causing them to clump together so they're more able to be captured within those filters, which in turn keeps them from collecting on our coils or heating or cooling coils. So keeping all that clean helps maintain that airstream ease of flowing through everything. Also keeps our ductwork cleaner as well. So those are the benefits. To respond to your question about being able to understand energy efficiency, that's kind of a challenge to be able to understand that because we don't have the ability to look at those individual units and stuff. The best we could do is compare from one year to another, and of course the weather will have an impact on that. So it's kind of hard, but I'm very curious to see. I think that we'll see probably through feedback through departments in terms of how people feel and such will probably be much more evident.
Yeah. One follow-up.
Sir?
So, Mike, what kind of filters are you guys using and how often do you change them out? There's some reusable, cleanable. The reason why I ask this is because the HVAC guy that I always talk to, he hates the washable ones and he always replaces them with the regular filters and just a little bit you said about that ionizing, making the particles bigger so they get caught more. I would think filter changing is going to be either higher or I'm just curious what kind of filter.
It could increase through that. We'll change filters a couple times a year, and generally we're monitoring this to make that determination when they're happen when airflow starts to be restricted or something. Then we'll change out those filters. It'll be interesting to see. I can't tell you exactly off the top of my head what the kind of filters we have, but we do have. We don't have HEPA filters, but we have filters that will screen most of the particles in the air. Do a pretty good job, but obviously something that charges them, causes them to clump together, especially viruses or something. That stuff is pretty small. If we can make it bigger, capture it, less gets through.
And so maybe, Gary, do you have filters on your unit and do you have to change them more or is it less or is it more at first until the air is cleaner and then
Well,
less later?
no, that's a good question. I've changed mine twice at this point in time. It's collected considerable debris. And so I'm changing mine monthly right now. Whether or not that will let off or not, I don't know.
Thank you. It seems like at first, until you get things kind of cleaned out, like any HVAC, you're going to have more. And then once it gets working and it gets a little bit better, meaning the air gets better and things are kind of filtering out more, it seems like it will still filter, but it seems like it wouldn't be as much on a continual basis.
I think the logic follows that we're going to see more.
Yeah.
I don't have the experience to speak to it.
Right. Another thing is the upgoing cost or the upkeep, I should say. How about for replacement? I mean, are these 10-year units, are these 20-year units, are they 5-year units? What are they guaranteeing on how long they last?
Essentially, these do not require any maintenance, which is one of the reasons we were drawn to them. There's some systems that you use UV lights in the ductwork that help kill things, and you got to replace those bulbs on a regular basis. That can be expensive and time consuming when you think about how many air handlers we have when we get a service. These are essentially the way that it's pitched is that there aren't moving parts to these things. They just don't really wear out. Now, electronic devices wear out. I don't know what that lifespan is. I'm guessing it's probably at least 10 to 15 years, but.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner DeSanto?
Hi, Mike. I appreciate the pointing out that the filtration system, or Lloyd was pointing out about the filtration system, that my guess is, just as you said, Mike, that you're going to replace filters more often because if you're creating better filtration, the filters are trapping more.
Yeah.
One thing that I wanted to find out, and maybe Dustin knows better than anybody, how long are we authorized? How long can we utilize the CARES Act funds?
I can speak to that.
Okay.
We have to have purchased and paid for everything before December 30th of this year. I think there's discussion of that being extended, but we're operating under that assumption right now that that things have to be purchased and paid for, and then we are reimbursed from that. Length of
thank you.
time right now is what they're telling me is we're probably looking at 6 to 8 weeks to time of having these installed.
And before COVID, had we ever considered anything like this?
I've only been here in this position, and I for a couple of years. And prior to that, any discussions that I was involved in, I don't recall that.
Do we know of any other county buildings or city buildings that are turning
South,
to this?
South Dakota School of Mines is installing them. DSU is installing them. I think that the school system would like to install them here locally. There's some concerns about because of the variety of systems that they have and concerns about how that might be misinterpreted where those systems get installed. So I think that they may not do them.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
follow up. I understand the usefulness of this. I read through the packet that you sent out, and it appears to be something that would improve air quality in our buildings and possibly over the period of time that we're using it, or that it's a useful time before it has to be replaced. With a 30% reduction in cost, it may somewhat pay for itself, I would say. I guess my concern is that once again, as with in a lot of cases, when you got money to spend, you figure out how to spend it. And that CARES Act money is taxpayer money. It's money that came out of your pocket and my pocket and everybody else's pocket that's sitting in the room that has a job. And so I guess that's my biggest concern, is that all of a sudden we're thinking of ways to, we got this money, let's spend it. We got to spend it. Do we have to spend it? I guess that's my question.
I have something on that, before Sheriff speaks. My brother-in-law actually invented a air handling unit for planes, killed the bacteria and any kind of virus that was in that plane by 99.9%. A lot of areas are going into these units, and at first I said, holy cow, I'm with Mr. DeSanto, $315,000, and we're doing it because of a CARES Act and the same kind of thought. And then flipped my brain into thinking, okay, for the jail, safety of the tenants there, as we call them, safety of the employees there. Infectious disease has been around a long time, and anything that we can do to make it less for the people there and anybody in that area in the jail, and our employees here. I mean, everybody in Pennington County matters, but those guys have a safety factor in there more than ever. And I have learned from the sheriff that infectious diseases in the jail have been around a long time, and anything we can do to diminish that is a huge safety factor for him and his employees there as well, because he's going to deal with it, and his employees are going to deal with it on a bigger basis. So if this was around before, and I knew about this before, and learning what I have learned from my brother-in-law, he also says it's a good thing. It's a good thing for the future to have these things for any kind of infectious disease, not just what COVID is going on. So I think it's if we can be reimbursed, it's still a positive. And if it's something that's going to be futuristic for us and a safety factor for all of us, and I'm not talking COVID, I'm talking in a general basis. Because if you've been in the jail and you've walked around with Kevin Tome, Brian Mueller, and his crew, people are doing things in those different areas that could cause some major issues for anybody. They have to clean these things up afterwards. So after thinking that and knowing that, I changed my thought process on safety. So again, for the 315,000, it's not only going to include the jail, it's going to include many different areas in Pennington County for our employees.
Madam Chair.
Kevin Tone, please.
Madam Chair, thank you. I'll be brief, but I appreciate Commissioner DeSanto's concern about spending dollars, and I respect that. One thing COVID has done for us is caused us to take a second look at a lot of things and how we do business. Look at how this room is set up different, the way we do business, remote work, everything else. It did the same thing for us in our facilities. It caused us to dig a little deeper into how we're doing business. If we have COVID dollars get reimbursed. If we didn't have COVID dollars, I'd be standing here making the same request for the air handling systems in our facility. So it's not a matter of just spending the money because we have it. I feel like it's a legitimate need, so thank you.
Yes, sir. Commissioner LaCroy.
I'd make a motion to authorize Mike Cool, Director of Buildings and Grounds, to accept the O'Connell Company quote P 20-138DR dated August 24th, 2020, totaling $315,088 to install the air purification equipment and HVAC air handling.
Second that
units.
motion.
Motion by LaCroy, second by Ross Connect. Any other discussion? If not,
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
I will support this on the basis that it's going to save us. I believe it's going to save us in the long run when it comes to maintenance and costs, when it possibly even costs when it comes down to people getting sick and having to collect their sick pay and that kind of stuff. Workman's comp costs. If it's going to clean up the air, then there's a possibility it will prevent our jail workers from being exposed to dangerous pathogens as well. I just wanted to point out that just because we got the money doesn't mean we have to spend it. So I do appreciate Sheriff Tomes letting us know that this is something that would have been considered in the first place.
Thank you, Commissioner DeSanto.
Follow.
One thing is that when my brother-in-law did these units and came back and talked about how they put the virus, they had biologists put viruses underneath seats, in the seat back covers, everywhere they could to try to see if, the virus still lived from these units. And it killed it again by 99.9%. It took him a while to figure out how to get to 99.9%, but he did, and it's amazing. And it was just cool listening to him. And it was just funny because he came about a week before this was even put out, and I had asked Mike a few questions on it before the ionizing unit was put out to us on an email. So I thought it was kind of weird how it worked itself into where we are today with this unit. So he's in Okinawa promoting those units and moving forward with them, and they are the future for many areas, not just in our buildings. They're doing them in planes and other things as well. So, Commissioner LaCroy.
Just to follow up, I appreciate all the talk on this. Mark had just brought up the cost savings, and you talked about the bacteria. I mean, these are some important things that we're considering. And appreciate you guys coming up with this. But, I've seen some of our own air duct systems. In fact, the old lacrosse system getting cleaned out years ago because we had employees who had allergy problems, and the county had to come in and clean those ductworks and hire the company to do that. So I know the benefits that it's going to help us in the long run with our ductwork system, and hopefully I'm sure it's going to be a cost saving and a benefit to everybody who comes into these buildings.
Thank you. So we have a motion by LaCroy, second by Ross Connect. Any other discussion? If not, a roll call, please, Ms. Kara.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
All right.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you for the discussion today. Good one. Items from emergency management. First, we'll have item A, 2021 Local Emergency Management Performance Grant.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commission. Dustin Willett, the Pennington County Emergency Manager. Had a immediate family close contact with a COVID positive, so we're all hunkered down for our 10 to 14 day quarantine period at home. So joining you via Zoom. The first item here, the LEMPG, Local Emergency Management Performance Grant. So this is the grant that supplements about a third of emergency management's budget. So approximately a third of our operating budget comes from the city, a third from the county, and a third from this grant. So it's a federal grant that's passed through the state. It operates on the federal fiscal year. So we are coming to the close of the 2020 LEMPG grant, and this is the reauthorization of this grant for 2021. This comes before you every year. The state always looks at the federal requirements and then imposes legitimate requirements on their end to make sure that those grant dollars are being used according to what the Congress intended that grant to be used for. So the part of that LEMPG that I'm required to brief the commission out on is what we call the work plan. The work plan is the portion of this grant agreement that says this is what we are going to do as a county in order to be a recipient of these funds. It covers a large swath of tasks that our office accomplishes every year. These tasks largely remain unchanged, but they involve training, they involve public education, they involve maintaining lists and maintaining contacts, they involve exercise. Again, within that grant packet or within that work plan packet, there's multiple things that are required. Multiple visits from Office of Emergency Management folks that come out and do spot checks to make sure that we're performing the way we're supposed to be performing. Pennington County has never had any deficiencies across that board. We've always been a recipient of those dollars without any complications for the most part. So I'd be happy to stand for any questions regarding the 2021 LEMPG grant agreement, specifically anything that jumped out at any of the commissioners in the 2021 work plan. And if there are no questions, then I'd ask for a motion to approve the chair's signature on the 2021 LEMPG agreement.
So Dustin, can you explain this packet to us? It'll take you probably a couple hours, but go ahead. I'm kidding.
Again, that packet constitutes a large portion of what we do in emergency management.
Yes,
so
sir.
Again,
There's a lot of different things that you do, and if you don't know, and if you ever want to get online, Dustin can probably send you this packet, but there's a lot of different things that they do in emergency management. And I've been here for a while, so you kind of learn most of those, and sometimes you stumble upon them by different areas that we ended up in through either COVID or just different areas in the last 6 years that I didn't know everything that we did here in emergency management that you do, Dustin. Thank you. So,
Madam
do we
Chair.
have a motion, sir? Commissioner Drews?
I would make the motion, based on the longevity of this program, I'd make the motion to approve the 2021 Local Emergency Management Performance Grant Agreement.
Motion by Drews,
Second.
second by LaCroix. Any other discussion? If not, roll call, please.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroix,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye, motion carries. Dustin, item B, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. And just as a follow-on to that, to answer one of Mark's questions previous, or Commissioner DeSanto's questions earlier, emergency management has had a proposal or a plan in place for some UV sterilization units in the Emergency Operations Center for about 2 years now. So long prior to COVID, we were looking at increasing the air quality, reducing bacterial and viral loads in the EOC to keep our Emergency Operations Center folks healthy. And at that time, it was long prior to any SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19. So yeah, several of these, in fact, our Homeland Security grant award this year is for some disinfection, some surface disinfection equipment. And that was a process through long before COVID became an issue for us. So the answer is yes, some of these systems have been looked at for various county operations prior to COVID. I just wanted to make that note. Item B is the local emergency operations plan. This is one of the few plans that we're mandated to produce and maintain, and there have been no really substantive changes to it over the last 2 years. The last time it had to come before you to be signed was in 2018. Basically, there have been no changes over 2019 and 2020. This plan is under revision and under review. So we're changing some of the formats to make this plan more usable, to make this plan more readable. Right now, it's based primarily on what we call ESFs, or emergency support functions, which are more of a federal doctrine that we've tried to kind of shoehorn into a local. And it's worked for several years, but in late 2019, early 2020, FEMA came out with what they call the Community Lifeline model. And if you remember back to the senior leadership briefs that the EOC was producing weekly during the EOC COVID response, all those, that report was broken down on those community lifelines. And so we're going to model this local emergency operations plan on those FEMA community lifelines rather than the emergency support functions. It'll make for a more intuitive and an easier to understand and use plan. The other part of this plan that's under revision is the continuity planning. So COVID has taught us a lot about where our continuity plans are and where they should be. So looking forward over the next probably year or so, in working with both the elected body in Rapid City, the elected body in Pennington County, as well as department heads in order to kind of shore up some of our continuity plans, which will be housed in the local emergency operations plan as well. So some changes to come in this plan, but what you have before you right now is a plan that's largely unchanged from 2018, outside of some cleaning and some formatting to make the plan a little more navigable and make its appearance consistent throughout the document. I'd be happy to stand for any questions on the LEOP.
Any questions for Dustin? If not, Dustin, item C, please.
Item C is the what we typically refer to as METWARN, or meteorological warning system. This is our series of 19 satellite-based or satellite communication flash flood warning gauges that we have spread out throughout the county. This is an annual cost share agreement with the USGS, the United States Geological Survey. They're the ones that maintain the system, maintain the satellites, maintain that data stream. Several of these gauges have equipment that needs to be removed before some of those waterways freeze. So we remove that flash flood equipment in the fall and then reinstall that flash flood equipment in the spring, and the United States Geological Survey is the one that does all that work. So this is a cost share agreement between the county and the United States Geological Survey, USGS, for the METWARN system. We've been, again, renewing this agreement since 1997 when it was put into place. Pennington County's share is then subdivided. We bill out participating municipalities. So Rapid City, Keystone, Hill City, those folks contribute. Rapid Valley Water District or Sanitary District all contribute cost or cost share, but that's done on the Pennington County side. They're not in an agreement with the USGS. We are. We just take our portion and then subdivide that based on population with other municipalities. So the Pennington County portion ends up being just under $10,000 annually for our flash flood warning system. Happy to stand for questions on that, the 2021 USGS cost share agreement. And after that, I'd ask for a motion for the chair to sign that 2021 agreement with USGS.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair.
Commissioner DeSanto, please.
Dustin, it looks like we are responsible, Pennington County is responsible for about a quarter of the 42,000 that we pay up front, and then we get reimbursed from these other entities. How many other entities are involved?
So the other folks that we get money from are Rapid City, Rapid Valley, Hill City, and Keystone. Box Elder dropped out of that agreement a couple years ago. That was a topic of discussion for a while. And you're correct. Right now, Pennington County carries 23.7% of that cost share. Rapid City's at a little over 61%. Rapid Valley is at 7%, Hill City's at about 5%, Keystone's at about 3%.
Okay, thank you.
Motion or discussion?
I'll make a motion with the follow-up. Move for approval.
Motion by LaCroy, is there a second?
Second.
Second by
Second for
Drews.
discussion.
Commissioner LaCroy.
Dustin, if I remember right, I remember when Box Elder dropped out, and for various reasons, political probably. At one time, they were talking about removing one of the sensors that was over there. Do you know, can you update me on that?
So that all involved the decision of the elected leaders of Box Elder to not participate in the cost share program. And so one of the discussion points during that time was if we were not receiving cost share, then one of the things that we were looking at was the possibility of having to remove one of those gauges upstream on Box Elder Creek that serves that area. Nobody wanted to do that. There was not an appetite to do that. By way of again, going back in time and talking about what happened there, Box Elder's contention is that this is a service that should be provided by the county to all county residents, including those within municipal limits. So Box Elder's stance is that this is a county responsibility, should be a county-borne cost. So they don't want to participate in the cost share. There is a working group with elected officials from all the different municipalities, including Pennington County. That working group decided unanimously that we would keep the system intact as it was. In fact, there's several municipalities that are looking to increase their cost share and also increase the number of locations and waterways that we monitor. So, Hill City would like to have a gauge on Newton Fork that's flooded through town a couple of times. So the consensus of the working group was that we keep the system intact. And what happened in that particular case was the cost share that Box Elder had historically shouldered increased the county share. So that share that Box Elder used to pay increased Pennington County share. So our share used to be about $7,000 a year and 7,000 and change, and now we're 9,000 and change.
Thank you, Dustin. I just wanted a little update on that, and so that the rest of the board could hear that. But I also wanted to make a point, these sensors were also installed after the flood, and if I remember right, and can you give us a little bit of history on that? Because the reason why we did it is for early awareness, so we wouldn't have the tragedy of a 72 flood again, is why these sensors are there.
So this effort, a lot of kudos go out to one of my predecessors, Park Owens. It took 20 years. So this system went online in late 1996, early 1997, and has been in operation since. Obviously, the flood was in 72. So it took over 20 years to get this flood warning system in. Predominantly, or one of the biggest reasons that it took that long was simply infrastructure and cost. So late 1970s through the 80s, satellite technology wasn't affordable, wasn't accessible to terrestrial stations. We didn't have phone lines strung up to all the hinter regions in the Black Hills where a lot of these gauges are located. So RF propagation or radio propagation through the hills is a challenge. So there was just no good technological, well, I shouldn't say there wasn't. There was no affordable technological solution for all those gauges to communicate back in a timely fashion where it would do us any good. So really that was the piece that was that was holding this system up. Obviously in the 90s and late 90s, satellite technology became more accessible and affordable, and we were able to have a system that basically real time, these gauges during a flood event, they changed their frequency of reporting based on conditions at the site. But these gauges provide, again, through a satellite uplink link, real-time data on what our waterways are doing. So it gives us, in some cases, hours of advance notice of a flood event, a flash flood event in particular drainages. And it's phenomenal. It's not universal technology. Not every community is protected by an early warning flash flood system. We're very, very fortunate that our predecessors had the foresight and the political will to put this in and keep it maintained. It's an incredible system. It's used every year, every spring, through all of our thunderstorms and flash flood events, and we're fortunate to have it.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. We do have a motion by LaCroix, second by Drews. Any other discussion? If not, roll call, please, Ms. Kara.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroix,
Aye.
Rosknecht,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Kara. Item D, Dustin.
Thank you, Commission. So item D is the COVID update that's requested at this meeting. I don't think it's news to anybody that there has been an uptick in cases both across the state and in Pennington County. So, I've come before you several times and said, our numbers aren't anywhere close to even our peak in June. Well, our numbers now are more than double what we had seen in terms of active cases in Pennington County in June. But also keep in mind, we're talking about tens and at the most, 100 here and there in terms of cases. So do we see an increase in active cases? No question, absolutely. In fact, over the last several days, that number has increased pretty significantly. But I would like to go back, and one of the things that I always bring before this body and for the benefit of the watching public as well, from day one, we work on the National Incident Management System, NIMS, and NIMS is based on management by objective. And our primary objective in this whole thing is certainly the health and welfare and life safety for our citizens, but our operational objective was to not break healthcare, not break our hospital system and clinic system that serves our community. And it's of note that our hospitalized numbers here in Western South Dakota, Monument Health here in Rapid City, we're still down in, right now, first thing this morning, we were down to 21 cases. So we were up as high as I think 43 back in June. So we're still sitting at half the number in the hospital that we had back in our June peak. So our numbers in the hospital are still doing very, very, very well. On the Friday call with Monument Health, they have their mathematical prediction model. And right now, their model, with all with social distancing requirements put into place, their model says we should have 56 to 60 patients at Monument Health, and we're down at 21. So less than half hospital census from what the hospital model is predicting they should have. And we've always been below that Monument Health prediction. So the one data point on hospitalizations that we're looking at. So in terms of numbers of people hospitalized, we're still doing very, very, very well. One of the data points we're looking at, and I know it made the journal a few days ago, was that we're starting to see positive tests among the healthcare workforce. So having the physical beds at Monument Health is one thing, making sure we have enough healthcare providers to adequately staff and treat the patients in those beds is a data point that we look at. And obviously, Monument is looking at that harder than anyone. And right now they are confident. Right now they certainly have the ability to treat the patients that they have. And the second part of that is while they're closely monitoring that situation and have implemented lots of controls internally in terms of infection control, they're still confident that their workforce is going to be able to staff the beds that they have designated to take care of COVID patients. So in terms of management by objectives, we're still where we need to be. We are not breaking healthcare. Healthcare is still adequately staffed and has the right equipment to take care of our folks in our community that require medical treatment and hospitalization, including those with COVID-19. So we're good there. Certainly, just like every time we've done this briefing, COVID is in our community. Flu is going to begin circulating in our community as well. So infection control principles are still recommended, still advised. Obviously, more and more places are requiring cloth face coverings. I'm speaking to you today via Zoom out of an abundance of caution and quarantining. So it's in our community. It's not going anywhere yet. We are seeing active cases spike. We have had no new deaths for weeks. So people aren't increasingly dying from COVID. Our hospital rates are still low, and I'd be happy to stand for any questions that the commission might have.
Any
Madam Chair?
discussion? Commissioner DeSanto.
I think it's important for us to point out also, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dustin, but when I'm looking at the numbers and crunching the numbers, comparatively to our population density, our numbers are not increasing any more than anywhere else in the state. You know, a lot of people were concerned about Raleigh and the fair and some of our gatherings that we've had. But if you look at the numbers, we aren't increasing any more quickly than other population densities that did not have those types of gatherings. Am I correct?
Yep, that's an absolutely valid observation. We've always known that the virus is going to move through our community, and it had been moving through our community at a very, very steady rate, kind of a slow burn. We had lots of counties in South Dakota that had 0 cases. So we are again, just like any other financial or even in this case epidemiological event, things start on the coasts and they move into the heartland, and it takes a while for us to see the impacts that other places see earlier, whether that's financial, whether it's epidemiological. So we're seeing COVID-19 move through our population statewide in South Dakota. Lots of counties that had 0 cases are now popping into the single double digits. So across the state, we're seeing COVID move through our community. And in Pennington County, we're seeing COVID move through our community. So the graphs look alarming because we've been in a slow burn for several months. So when you see that sharp peak on the graph, it certainly grabs your attention, as well it should. But when we look at total numbers and percentage of population, and really what those actual numbers are and what it's actually saying, I certainly don't want to minimize what this disease is and how it affects our community. But the graphs tend to look worse than the reality in our community really is.
Do you have a follow-up, Commissioner DeSanto?
No, thank you, Dustin.
Okay, discussion? Thank you, Dustin. I too believe that eventually it was going to hit us, and we keep forgetting the second part of this. There is the infectious disease, but mentally and physically and what it's doing to people on the other side from this disease, I think has cost us a lot more damage in a lot of cases. So it is an infectious disease. It should be treated as an infectious disease. They've been around for a long time. But what we've done with this one, I think, is blown it out a little bit. And like Dustin says, we don't want to minimize the impact of what this means, but we also have to see the other side of what it's done to communities around the United States, let alone South Dakota, mentally and physically to people. And again, masks and different things that we're doing. I always think, even back in the day when there was worse ones, washing your hands and being sanitary is the bottom line here, guys. So I agree with you, Dustin. I knew at one point, and we all knew, that this was going to come through our community like any other infectious disease, and it's going to start, and then it's going to be more and more. We don't want anybody to have effects of it, of passing away or anything like that, but those things are going to happen with infectious disease. And we can't minimize that in a sense, but we also have to think about what are we doing for the future? Is this what we're seeing for the future for any kind of infectious disease that comes through? Some of the things I think were very positive, and we can take it as a positive because change sometimes happens in different reasons as well. So maybe it was for the change in different areas that needed to change. Everything happens for a reason, I believe, also. So some of the changes that you see from COVID have been very positive, just in technology that we can use, just how our employees can work, just how many things have changed from it as well. So there's always a negative and a positive. But the bottom line is again, it's an infectious disease and should be treated accordingly. So I'm going to say the word, sometimes people get that COVID creepy, and what happens with that, I call, is you're taking people and mentally and physically putting them over the edge from some of this. And we need to think about that in a way that impact has been a lot bigger. And I have a couple areas, businesses in town that have shown that. I mean, I have been full in those businesses, but people don't want to come out of their rooms and just the mental, it's the saddest thing I've ever seen, the mental area that this has affected people to the point where people that you wouldn't even have thought would have the issues that they have from this. And from mental comes physical. So just a crazy thing this whole thing has been this year, in one sense. In the other, I see a lot of positives that have come out through technology and different areas that we have done better at. So just food for thought. Dustin, any follow-up?
No, Commissioner. Obviously, the mental health effects are real. They're here. They're already being experienced. We're already seeing the effects of that, and we anticipate that to continue and probably get worse as this event prolongs. So
Well, we
certainly
also
very valid point. Thank you.
Well, we also talked about the mental health in western South Dakota and how we need to move forward with that. And I think sooner than later at this point, for many people in this area, because we have nothing pretty much. We have areas in western South Dakota that can help us, but we actually need a bigger facility and help for people because it's becoming bigger and bigger. And we do need the state's help on that, so. All righty, thank you, Dustin, for your information, Jay and Commission. Number 10 is items from emergency services. Mr. Carley, how are you, sir? Speaking of needing more help.
Good morning, Kevin Carley, Director, Pennington County ESCC. Here this morning to request that our dispatcher 4 position be made effective as a current position rather than waiting until January 1st of 2021. We presented Dispatcher 4 back in July as part of a package of things that we presented to update for Gallagher. And you did approve those, but we'd like to move forward with that now. And to give you some history on the position, Dispatcher 4 was created because we have 4 major areas where we dispatch in the center. There were 3 previous, and then when we added the state radio positions, that created 4 major positions. So it's always been our intention to add the Dispatcher 4. Back in 2019, when we did our 2020 budget presentation, we asked for approval for the funding, which you did approve. And our intention was to actually make that effective this budget year in 2020. After consulting with John Morrow, we decided to hold off and make that Dispatcher 4 part of the Gallagher presentation. Since we already have the money in the budget and it affects about 20% of our employees, and total cost is only about $2,500 for the rest of this year to do that, we'd like to move forward and make it effective now.
So Kevin, do you have all your positions filled at this point?
We are currently down 2 positions.
Okay.
We're authorized at 52 and we're at 50 right now. And one of those is a dispatch position and one is our office manager position that we're waiting to fill as part of our 10% reduction for a budget goal.
Thank you, Kevin. Commissioner DeSanto.
I'd move for approval.
Second.
Moved by DeSanto, second by LaCroix. Discussion? Roll call, please. Ms. Garrett?
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Roskinick,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye. Motion carries, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 11 is Superintendent Joe Miller from Highway.
Good morning, Commission. Joe Miller, Pennington County Highway Department. First in front of you there is a service contract that we do every year, dating back to, I think, 1995 is when as far back as I could find it there. Essentially, the GFP, Game Fish and Parks, pays us to do snow removal on their hilltop lot right off of Deerfield Road. That's for snowmobilers. We also do some out at the New Wall Dam. We haven't done any out there for a while, but we also do some at the Deerfield Lake turnoff there for ice fishermen also. They're all separate contracts just due to where the money comes from for the state. But we also mow this to aid in the snow removal in the fall. The contract is, we charge them $130 an hour, which is our rental rate for our equipment. So it's a cost plus. So we don't lose any money on that. There's a limiting amount set for the state at $4,000 or approximately 30 hours of snow removal on that. In the past 8 years, we've charged them roughly about $500, so 3 or 4 hours per season. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Discussion or motion, please?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroy.
Joe, I was just going through this and I see the $130 per hour for snow removal. What do you charge for mowing?
Same thing.
It's $130.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify. Thanks.
Yep.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
move for approval.
Moved by DeSanto, second by LaCroy. Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Roskinick,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye, motion carries. Item B, letting authorization for South Rochford Road Bridge.
All right, so this is a long-awaited moment. This project's been in the works since 2004. We finally got there on part of the project, the bridge, the most important part, with the passing of our wheel tax. In 2014, the bridge project was actually split away from the road project to try and aid in getting that project built sooner rather than later. You recall when that bridge was built? 1940s, wasn't it?
49, I believe.
1949, so it's in dire need of replacement. It's an old wooden structure. The abutments are rotting away. So this is going to be for construction in 2021. The construction will be a concrete arch with cast-in-place wing walls. It'll be stamped, and then the concrete will be stained to match the sandstone and limestone around the area there and the granite. The highway department is responsible for approximately 20% of this, which comes out to about $200,000 depending on where the bids come in. So with that, I will stand for any questions.
Discussion or motion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Roskinick.
Joe, this cost that we're looking at, we're completely relocating that bridge, right? We're going west towards Black Fox.
Correct. We're moving that bridge approximately 30 to 40 feet west. The reason for that was the DOT requested that it goes for any intersection. You want to intersect at as much of a 90 as possible. So with the new road project and the alignment, they chose to move that about 30 to 40 feet to the west. Correct.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner
I
Roskinick.
move to approve.
Moved by Roskinick, second by Drews.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner
question of Joe.
Drews, please.
So, Joe, is there going to be able to be access there across that bridge during the construction period of time too?
So with it being moved 30 to 40 feet to the west, they'll leave the old bridge in place until they get the new bridge built, and then they'll tear the old bridge out and put traffic onto the new bridge. So with that being said, a little update on the road project where we've got 10 of 19 or 10 of 18 landowners signed up with the right-of-way. We've got verbals from 6 of the remaining 8. We've been doing a little bit of redesign on the road project with around 2 of the curves to impact the landowners a lot less. And we're hopeful that once we do this redesign, those remaining two will be for the project, and we can get them signed up here to meet that September 25th deadline. So,
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroy.
Thank Joe. I'm kind of excited for this to finally be moving forward. I remember who was it that all went out there? Deb, was it me, you, and I don't remember if there's somebody else. We toured the bridge, and we thought we had a plan, then it had to change. Then we thought we had a plan, and this was a pretty big struggle, and I appreciate your guys' consistency and fortitude of moving this forward. It may be better 40 to 30 feet better or further out, but I know we had to do more studies and more everything else. But I'm excited to see this being finally letted out. Quite frankly, thank you.
right.
Thank you.
The highway department is as well. We're excited to get this up and off the ground and moving forward so we can focus our energy on something else. So,
I bet. So, Mark, how long has it been since all these projects? You've been here 30 years, so, there you go. I'd just like to say a couple of things, Joe, Mark, and Sean, and the highway crews I've seen out there, at different projects that I went to visit. A lot of times it looks like I don't have meetings on my schedule, but I go out with the crews, different departments, and kind of, they show me around of what they're doing. But Sean is our new engineer who took our
Bill Welk.
Bill Wilkes, and I know Bill. I don't know why I couldn't figure out his name, but good man. Anyway, Sean has done an amazing job joining us in Pennington County and what he's done for his engineering skills. Very nice, mellow fellow that really knows his stuff, and he's been going around to the different landowners visiting. Just a good guy. So this team that Joe is building out, and we talked about that this morning with new employees. This team of Pennington County, including this highway, have really built themselves up and have gone above and beyond in some of those areas where innovation, like I said, with this COVID, innovation and what they're doing, how we're doing things. It's just amazing to watch on the sidelines of this team, one of these teams, which is the highway in Pennington County. So congratulations to your team. A lot of things have moved forward, and holy cow, Joe, I'll talk to Joe and he goes, Deb, does this ever slow down? And I said, no, it actually probably increases because the more you get done, the more things there is to get done. So when you're in government, people think, well, those guys got these slack jobs, they get paid a lot. But I encourage people to go see what these people do in Pennington County every day for you as taxpayers, because these three will show you, and so will everybody else in Pennington County that works there, that there's a lot to do, and it's full-fold. It's not like we have 20 customers. We have 100,000 customers. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you for the kind words.
Sorry about that, but it's just amazing to watch. So sometimes that gets away with me, so I apologize. But I just think it's pretty cool, all the things that we have moved ahead in during this time where everybody else is saying, well, I can't do. We're saying, let's get it done. So thank you. We do have a motion by Ross Connect, second by Drews. Roll call, please.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 12, Human Resources. Good morning, John.
Morning, Commissioners. John Morrow, Pennington County Human Resources. So today before you, we have an item to add a few positions to our excluded position list. As we discussed this past spring, back in April, there's federal legislation called the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, FFCRA, that temporarily provides employers and government employers specifically in this instance, the ability to identify certain positions and contact or designate, them as being key or critical positions that should be excluded from the Act. The Act itself provides emergency paid sick leave, emergency family and medical leave by designating these positions as critical to our ongoing business. Then they're not able to actually utilize those two components of the federal Act, FFCRA. What we're asking at this point is to put a few additional positions on that excluded list within the treasurer's office, as we noticed over the course of time since March, and then as we move through the summer months. Any disruption to the business model within our treasurer's office creates some pinch points, if you will, with regard to funding for county operations. Having these positions added to that excluded list allows us to maintain consistent operations and also allows us to make sure that the money is continuing to flow into and through Pennington County. So I'm asking permission today or approval today to actually add these positions of tax and title assistant 1, 2, and 3, as well as accountant to that excluded position list. And the motion is at the bottom of that memo.
Thank you. Do we have a motion or discussion?
Madam Chair, I'd make the motion to approve.
Motion by Drews,
Second.
second by Ross Connect. Discussion? Roll call. Ms. Kara?
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you,
John,
Commissioners.
just a point of privilege here. Can you introduce your new HR
Oh,
lady?
most definitely.
I met her this morning. Very nice.
Megan, why don't you come on
Just
up?
a little taller than me.
So Megan joined our team actually this past Monday, so this is the beginning of her second week. You would tell them a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Miss Megan.
Hi, I
Sorry
did
to
not
put you on the
expect to have to do this.
Surprise.
My name is Megan Snyder. I come here from Catholic Social Services. I kind of did a career field change, but I'm excited to enter the realm of human resources and be working for Pennington County. So, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you, John. I appreciate that.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Have a good day, sir. Next is item 13, request for reduction in speed limit on 159th Avenue. Mr. Charles Schaaf. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Ms. Hadcock and Commissioners. Sorry, I don't have a great big packet for you to review. I assume that everybody's had a chance to look at the reason for my request. And I know I have a response from the Highway Department on it. And that is one thing that I need to address. The picture that I submitted, because I don't have a 14-year-old granddaughter to take pictures and stuff for me, it makes that little bit of a hill there look kind of flattened out. But going back, almost a quarter of a mile, the hill starts and totally occludes any view of the driveway, loadout areas, cattle crossings and equipment crossing and everything below the hill. Now, we are the only 3 residents on the road, my wife, myself, and my son, on that stretch of that road. And over the 30 years since, going back like 30 years ago, they took down a sign that we had up there at the top of the hill about cattle crossing. That was there. I don't know when it got taken down, but that's been there, and somebody had the foresight to remove it. Don't know why. But this mention of accidents by the Highway Department, no, there haven't been any reportable accidents. There have been numerous close calls, equipment at the bottom of the hill or cattle at the bottom of the hill being moved, and people coming down that hill, slamming on the brakes, sliding into the barrow pits, which are kind of steep there on that whole upper area of 159th going up to 1416. And I've got numerous license plates that have been given to Highway Patrol, people taking out fences on us, sliding off the road. Some are at 2 in the morning, obviously, for avoiding deer, supposedly. And others are just kids trying to jump the railroad tracks, see how airborne they can get, destroying dad's pickup or whatever. And yeah, we're pulling them out of the ditch. The speeds that are mentioned on that traffic survey that they did out there with the little strips across the road. First of all, it was done in June. Well, June is haying season for us, as well as other farming activities. And we are constantly going up and down the road with a bobcat 5 miles an hour with the tractors and everything, and our neighbors that come in and hay other areas over there. Nobody is going very fast. And this kind of skews this 39 mile per hour average that they say is in effect on that road. It's just one of those things that statistics don't always make it. And the amount of traffic then, I mean, school is not in session, so the kids aren't using that as a raceway around there. Just a number of things that I kind of take issue with on that traffic survey. But from past experience over all these years, I know about the close calls that we've had. And if I've got to put somebody up at the top of the hill because we're backing a semi in to load cattle at the bottom of the hill, the road isn't blocked for very long, but however, it just, there are times when it does get to be a real problem. Same thing with moving cattle. We'll be taking 100 or so head up the road, and I've got to station somebody up top of the hill there to slow people down because they don't seem to have any regard for things. And as a result, the local sheriff's deputy, he has no enforcement powers over things because the speed limit is up at 50. So I have to take issue with things, and I don't know why there would be such opposition from the highway department to change that speed limit down so that hopefully people would obey it, and also for putting up maybe a supplementary sign like used to be there for a cattle crossing or blind entrance or trucks crossing or whatever up at the top of the hill to warn people that hey, slow it down, do something. And I just can't figure that this would be a big item on the budget, or a little penny size request versus everything else that's going on. And I would certainly appreciate it if commissioners would go ahead and approve a change in that speed limit and a posting of another sign up there to warn people that there's something going on at the bottom of that hill, because you actually, when you're up there, you cannot see down by the mailbox and our driveway and the other approaches that are down there.
Does anybody have any questions
Madam
for
Chair.
Mr. Robert? Commissioner Drews?
Mr. Schaff, I understand you want it changed up to our 229th interchanges.
Yes,
So what's the distance that you're talking about?
about
Total
a mile
distance?
and a quarter,
Mile and a quarter?
maybe a mile and a half.
Okay.
Joe, do you have some presentation? Sir, you can stay up here if you feel okay. Just to stand up there, sir.
Commissioner Drews, the length is 1.48 miles.
Okay.
You know, as Mr. Schaff said, traffic counts sometimes can be skewed due to the nature of the time of the year. Lots of new things play factors in those. But the data is the data. Back in 2014, we did the same request. It's on a 6-year cycle, and the traffic has actually decreased from 2014. In 2014, there was 49 average cars per day, and the count that we just did in June was 39 cars per day. So the traffic has actually decreased. The truck count on the road has stayed the same, actually. So there's 9 trucks per day that go up and down that road, which is, like Mr. Schaaf said, is probably the tractors and whatnot. There's no way for the traffic counters to disseminate what's tractor. It counts number of axles, and anything over 4, it within a certain time frame says, that's how it says it's a truck. So our gravel roads in this setting are all set at 50 miles an hour. There's very good sight distance out there. We didn't have a chance to go out there and measure it ourselves. I had one of our engineering techs go out there and measure the sight distance to both Mr. Schaaf's and his son's approaches. We have 500 feet or 400, between 450 and 500 feet of sight distance to, I believe, Mr. Schaaf's driveway, and then about 3,000 feet of sight distance to his son's driveway on the other side of the road. So the sight distance is there. As I stated in the memo, the highway department does not support this request. It is, it's very open in nature out there. There's no hills or valleys. It's very open, adequate sight distance. I'd like to point out that a semi blocking the roadway is a problem in any setting. So the cattle chute should probably be moved if that's the case, and that would resolve that issue. Slow moving vehicles with any county road. We've got tractors going up and down our roads all the time. So to us, that's not an issue there. With the dust issue, there is dust abatement. Mag water can be applied to the road per the county's policy. It's $1.50 a foot at the landowner's cost and their request. So with that, I guess I can stand for any other questions.
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Hold on. I'm going to say what I usually let you guys speak first. Just a couple of things. Number one, it's country folk basically using that. So you're not having a lot of people on the road except for them. I don't see on a decrease because it's not going to decrease that many people if we decrease the road, meaning you're going to be decreasing the people that use it every day. Does that make sense? So even if you decreased it by 10 miles an hour for people that use that road, and again, we got to take in consideration as well that, these are farmers and ranchers out there. These aren't going to be people like us most of the time on that road. So I understand where he's coming from. Even if it was 10 miles an hour decreased on that road, it would help the folks out there with their trucks. And if he's asking this, maybe, did your neighbors and stuff, Robert, were they wanting it at 50 or did you ask them?
I did not ask them. We are the only ones on that road. We get significant traffic coming out of that Caskey subdivision for some reason and heading up that road. And like I say, the ones that we see that are not involved in the farming and ranching business are just really roaring up and down that road. There, albeit few of them, by comparison. And highway department referred to I've got 2 trucks that have 7 axles. So, and then bobcats at 5 miles an hour and stuff like that. So it does mitigate the statistics.
Thank you, Robert.
And
So,
everything.
so bottom line, so, so.
Put it on silence and it
That's
still
okay.
comes through.
The bottom line is who was there first? Was it the city folk or the ranch people? And are we trying to accommodate everybody in a sense, I understand, but we're also want to accommodate the people that were there first that have been using that road for many years. So, I do take your advice on many things, as you know, Joe, but I still believe maybe we could decrease it at least by 10 or do something to try to help for solution, for Mr. Robert.
I guess, my position on that, if you guys are going to reduce the speed limit, I would, in the essence of consistency, we always preach the 85th percentile, and that is at 39 miles an hour. I guess it's just with the consistency with all the other gravel roads in the area, 229th is at 50 miles an hour. You go to 158 that's at 50 miles an hour. There's numerous other roads out there. So, you know, a sign is only going to do so much. You're going to have the sheriff out there to enforce it, and he can't be everywhere at once. So I guess consistency is what I try and get within the county on our highways. And 50 miles an hour on this type of gravel road, you go anywhere in Pennington County and it's going to be posted at 50 miles an hour. So,
So Joe, are we taking in consideration when we're doing the 50 miles an hour that we have farmers and ranchers out there during certain times, that those big trucks in those areas are going to be used in many of those areas and be traveled more than city folk on there that would be using it, and the people that are out there are going to be using the road the most. So do we have to do a consistency of 50 miles an hour everywhere when we start seeing a lot of farming and ranching equipment in some of those areas that we're putting 50? Maybe we need to look at that a little bit closer.
well, most of the time your farmers and ranchers are the one that are going over that 50 miles an hour in our experience, I guess, right? They've got a lot of stuff to do and a little time to do it. So, that, a lot of the times they want that speed limit up there. So the tractors and stuff, the few times they got to move them on the gravel road, they've got the slow moving vehicle signs and stuff like that. So,
Commissioner
Madam Chair.
Roskinick.
Madam Chair. I sympathize with you. I think we went through this same problem a couple months ago, Lower Spring Creek. Same thing, you come over a hill, a couple approaches. I think we might have looked at the speed limit on that, but from what I've seen with this issue is that if you put that speed limit down to 30 miles an hour, I just don't even know how effective that would be. I don't know. I think people are used to that pattern, and I'm guessing that there's probably little law enforcement out there that would sit there and put radar up. I would feel better if we had the warning signs like you said. Let people know that, hey, there's children up above, there's approaches up there, there's cattle. I would be totally for some signage relative to safety issues.
I appreciate that, sir.
if I
Thank
could
you.
speak to that one.
Commissioner, hold on a sec. Commissioner LaCroy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm on the same wavelength that I'd be willing to try a sign first, blind entrance up over the hill. The reason why I say this, sir, is Mr. Roskineck's right. We went through this earlier this year with another person. Now, heightened awareness of what I'm doing now is I'm driving around looking at speed limit signs and trying to understand things. In fact, today coming here, I noticed I was coming from Lacrosse Street over to Omaha, over by Abra. Just as you're coming just before it in the city street, it says entrance over the hill. There's a sign that says entrance. I never noticed it until today, but I mean, it was there. Give me advice that there's an entrance coming in, blind entrance. I think we need to try something along those lines, because I think what I'm finding with a lot of these speed limit requests for reduction, not only for country on gravel roads, but also in city limits. People, it's a shame that a few bad apples give us a bad outlook on everything that's happening. And that's there's a few people that like to speed and go fast. That's why all of a sudden you see residents putting signs out, slow down, children are present. Most people stay within those speed limits. So I appreciate where you're coming from, but I'd be willing to do more of a sign as an attempt first than changing speed limits in that area. and then I'd be willing to make another trip out in that area and drive around. But from my understanding, the only reason I approved the last one was because there was many turns, twists and turns, and I thought that it was appropriate at that point in time, but this one's kind of a straight shot.
So Joe,
and
follow up?
with that, we do have a countywide signing project. Actually, we have the pre-construction for that this afternoon. So they very well may put a cattle sign there or a cattle warning sign or a hidden entrance sign there if it's warranted under the engineering that's necessary to do that. I haven't looked at this specific road to see if that's a sign that's going to go there, but certainly, I don't, you say there was a cattle sign there prior, we can certainly put one of those up, at the top of the hill there, warning people that there is cattle present in the road at some point.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Roskinick.
Joe, did they make a sign, hidden approaches or something to that effect too?
Right, you got to be careful with how much signage you put on a road because then it just gets lost in translation. You put too many signs there, they kind of lose their meaning, kind of like in the construction zone. You put too many signs up and people get confused pretty easy.
I guess we just have to make the decision which one would be more effective.
Right, and I think either one is going to be effective in getting the message out there that, hey, there's possibly an obstruction in the road of some sort.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner DeSanto.
Joe, how many miles of gravel road do we have in Pennington County?
Around 500. I don't have that number right off the top of my head, but we have a little below 500 and a little above 300 asphalt. So
We've got a lot of miles of road in Pennington County, and I've driven quite a lot of it, especially since I've become commissioner. I did go out on Saturday and look at this particular area. Normally you guys have seen me in the past. I really proceed with caution when I'm looking at these speed limit changes, but I too agree with Ron and Lloyd that it would be more appropriate in this particular situation to put up in my opinion, a blind entrance sign. I think that would be more effective and less restrictive to the other people that are using the road. As far as the dust is concerned, Joe presented that solution. If we start changing these speed limits, there are 100 places that I've driven that are almost identical to what we're talking about today, and we'd have to start changing speed limits all over the county. So in this particular case, I think that it would be appropriate to put up that blind entrance sign, but I do not see a need for a speed limit change, especially considering the traffic count on this road. Even if it was 80 cars a day, I still wouldn't see the necessity.
Thank you, Commissioner DeSanto. Joe, do you maybe want to look at that and see what kind of sign, and then basically send us an email if that's what the commission wants, is what kind of sign would be appropriate there once you guys go out there?
yeah, we can have our sign manager take a look at it and look even in the signing project, the countywide signing project to see what's going to go in there, if anything, and we can just follow up with an email to the commission letting them know what we're going to put in there, whether it be a cattle sign or a hidden entrance sign. So definitely we can do that.
So Robert, the solution sounds more like maybe try the sign first and then move from there to see if that makes a difference for you, sir.
Understand, yeah, the question about law enforcement, we have sheriff's department that does patrol that, at least twice a day that I've seen. And, so that is not an overriding factor in things. You mentioned the dust business, dust control and all. Fort Meade Way and everything, they do it, and they're not charging the landowners on that up there in Meade County for that dust abatement. And we certainly could benefit from it. And the way prices are in the cattle industry and everything now and farming, and there's no way that my Social Security would even trump that and take care of it. It'd be a huge expense for us. And if we could get a couple areas of that taken care of up by the place where we wean the calves and Charles's place there, and at the bottom coming over that hill and everything in that other area, that would certainly help.
Well, the policy for that, that request needs to come from the landowner, and that is a policy that was passed by the Board of Commissioners. I don't know when that was, several years ago. 2008, Mark says. So that's a policy that's in place that the board put in place because we were getting a lot of requests for this. And there are other counties. Lawrence County is one that they do all their gravel roads, but it's a very significant cost to Pennington County. And as Mark alluded to earlier, we have 500 miles of gravel and several situations like your own that, they've got cattle close to the gravel road. So, if that's something that you'd like to do, I guess I would encourage the board to follow the policy that's in place for that matter. And, the cost is $1.50 a foot, and the landowners needs to mark out where that is, and we'll come out and take a look at it, and we'll be glad to do that. But, the policy is that it is at the landowner's expense.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Roskinick.
Like Mark said, you got 500 miles, and if we did that, it'd be a considerable expense. My philosophy is if a landowner says, I'll participate, would you help me? I could probably swallow that a little bit easier. But before I could make any decision today relative to dust control, I'd have to know how much, where, why it's needed. There's no way I could make a decision today. I need a lot more information. To me, that's a separate issue that we just need more information on.
Thank you. We do have a commission looking at a motion to put a sign in that area. Do we have someone that wants to make that motion from the commission?
I'd make, I don't know, well, I'll make the motion, but the sign.
We can take a look at it. It doesn't need to be a motion. I mean, that's something that we can
That's
take
what
a
I was
look
kind
at.
of gathering, so.
Okay.
And you'll work with Rob on that so that he's in the loop?
Yeah, I mean, we'll make sure he's in the loop what we're gonna do there.
And then look at some of those dust areas, maybe not put the mag water down, but maybe there's things in that area that we could do a little bit different with the gravel or something, Joe, so you didn't have to put that mag
Yeah, I
water
don't-
down.
That road's due for gravel. Didn't we find that, Mark? It is due for gravel, so, that's, once we're behind on our gravel, as I think I alluded to Commissioner Hadcock here last week or a couple weeks ago. We're, with not having with the moratorium put on mining, and it set us back about 4 years. We gotta do about 63 miles of gravel each year. They're on an 8-year cycle, so we're quite a ways behind on that. And the new gravel surfacing that we're doing, with the new gravel, there's a lot of clay in it, and it helps with the dust issue. So,
So Robert, bottom line is that he's gonna look at the sign, putting the sign up and what was appropriate. We do have a policy on mag water, sir, and that they are going to be looking at, in the future, gravel in that road. So that should make a difference on how that binds and how much dust is coming off that road as well.
If I may, the new gravel that they're putting down, yes, it has a significant amount of clay in it. They did it on 229th, and for first couple years after they did that, going back 2 years ago, I guess, every time it rained, it was just slicker than heck. It was really bad. And try and keep a vehicle on the road without four-wheel drive, my little Corolla, I couldn't go to town that way. It just was too slick. And that 159th, I was told a year ago, March, that that was a 100-year flood or whatever. That road got washed out that particular March 3 times down there by the railroad tracks and everything. And it needs more than gravel. It needs some engineering as to how to prevent the road being washed out continuously.
So maybe Mr. Roberts' solution is, after this, Joe will be contacting you, and you can visit with him a little bit more about the issues on that road, if you would, sir.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Joe, for helping him.
Thank you, Commission.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
just for a fact of note, the distance in feet would be 7,920 feet. If we were taking that 1.5 miles that they wanted to work on. So 7,920 feet times, I think Joe said 125.
5,280 times 150, 7,920.
Jesus. Autism over here. Thank you.
I like these guys.
Wow. Okay. Any other numbers did we miss there? Lloyd or Drews, did you miss any of those numbers there? Just kidding. Item 14 is a public hearing for consideration of FY 2021 provisional budget as annual budget for appropriations. Item A, if there's some motions that we need to make or we don't need to make, depending on what you want to do, you do have different areas that Cindy will visit with us about. Miss Cindy.
Good morning, Commissioners. Cindy Moeller, Pennington County Auditor. Yes, I did spell out in my memo to you the motions that I would recommend be made at some point prior to approval of the final 2021 budget. And I don't know if you want to work on those or if you want to call for any public comment on the budget prior to you doing that.
Commissioner Drews.
Cindy, since you are asking if this be continued until our next meeting, should we wait on those motions until that point in time, or are those would those motions be critical in you putting together the final numbers?
I guess critical, I wouldn't say they're critical. It would just help me have a more final budget when I come on the next meeting.
Okay. Madam Chair, just to follow up on that.
Commissioner Drews.
I have no issue with any of these suggested motions. The total dollar amount that we're talking about is less than $500. I mean, when we get down to the balancing figures. So I don't have a problem with considering each of these motions and then continuing it until our next meeting.
So, okay.
Do you need,
each
do you need
of these
each
motions
separate, or
then
can I
continuing?
take a second on that? All of them together?
Actually,
Or you need them separate?
separate. Item number 5, I believe, needs more information. I didn't have the amount of some of the stuff, and I'd like a little bit more information and time to visit with Mr. Vargo. So I got a little bit more information on some of his areas. Not against it, I just think I need to visit with him a little bit more on that, so.
Okay. Madam Chair.
So we'll go by motion 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, if that's okay. That way we have it on record. Is that okay, Miss Cindy? Okay, I think it's more appropriate as well, so we have each one on the record.
Yeah.
Okay.
Move to approve the operating transfer of general fund E-911 fund in the amount of $9,666.
Second.
Moved by Drews, second by LaCroy. Discussion?
That motion is second is the opposite of that.
Right. What'd you say?
LaCroy made the motion, I seconded it.
Okay. LaCroy made the motion, Drews second. Any other discussion? Not, Ms. Kara?
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Adcock.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 2.
Madam Chair, I'd move to keep the $50,000 in the Public Defender's 2021 budget for software needs, but not designated as an assigned long-term reserve.
Second.
Motion by Drews, second by Ross Connect. Is the public defender here for questions? Nope.
I don't see him.
Oh.
I've talked with Lori Wager in IT. The numbers are basically coming from things that she's discussed with Mr. Witcher on.
Okay, and they need to be done now in order for them to move forward? for 2021? Is that why he's moving it now?
He's not moving it now. What we're basically doing is moving it as to where it is budgeted. We were budgeting for a long-term reserve for software,
Okay.
but they'll be able to do that next year, so it does not need to be in the long-term reserve. It can just be within his regular services line item budget.
For this year instead of next year?
No, ma'am, for 2021.
Okay. So we have a motion by Drews, second by Ross Connect. Ms. Kara, roll call.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye, motion carries. Next is item 3, a reduction of 150,000 of the treasurer's budget.
So move.
Moved by
Second.
LaCroy, second by Drews. Discussion? Ms. Kara.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 5.
4. Isn't it?
I'm sorry, 4. Sorry, got lost.
I would
Move to
make the
increase the
motion
human
to,
resource budget to 15,000 for future wage scale review. Motion by Drews,
Second.
second by LaCroy.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Drews.
I think this is very appropriate of setting aside dollars each year to
Yes, sir.
prepare for the next time we need to go through this instead of trying to come up with all the dollars at one time. So
Yes,
I
sir.
like this idea.
Any other discussion? If not, roll call, Ms. Kara.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 5. Motion or discussion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner
I'd move to
Roskinick.
approve moving the Drug Diversion FTE to the state's attorney's general fund budget to approve an in-house investigator position and a new FTE for an attorney effective in 2021 for an increase of 3 FTEs, and further move to increase the state's attorney 2021 budget by $125,827.
Second.
Motion by Roskinick, second by Drews. Discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Drews.
I don't know if you saw it, but there is a further explanation in the packet of information. The dated August 20th memo from State's Attorney Vargo that does give a further explanation of this.
So, just a couple of things. So the total of basically is 106,000 for the first two. And the, adding the, FTE, which would be the other attorney, Mr. Vargo, your other attorney's only 19,000 for the extra attorney because the budget's increase is 125.
I would like to tell you, Madam Chair, Mark Vargo, State's Attorney.
Okay.
I would like to tell you that that's because we got somebody on the cheap. But my understanding from Susan and Cindy, and they've been the ones working on the numbers part of this,
Okay.
is that that's just related to who we lost. We've lost some people at the higher end of our pay scale, replaced them with people at the lower end. So we gave you the total net that's within the office. The attorney's still an attorney coming in at the normal attorney salary.
Okay, and on the in-house investigator, maybe it's appropriate to call it pre-trial something instead of a investigator, because to me, that sounds like we're adding, a sheriff's office position to a state's attorney that is a prosecutor instead of a, guy that, investigator to me sounds like, well, we're getting kind of crazy in a way that we're investigating every thing which is supposed to be investigated by a different department.
I have no objection to that. I think we need to leave the word investigator in there somewhere, so maybe a pretrial investigator, because otherwise we don't have a place for it on the wage scale. So
Okay.
we would either have to recreate one through John, or if we use the same one, I think we use the one that the public defender's investigator relates to. So
Okay.
if we want to call that a pretrial investigator, that makes sense and differentiates what we do from what the sheriff's office does.
Madam
So I
Chair.
would concur in
And
that.
then one more question, if I can, Commissioner Drews. How many positions do you have open right now for attorneys?
As of right now, we have one that's been offered and accepted for next summer.
Okay.
So we have an open one that where you don't have the body in the building.
Okay,
But I believe when we get our 3 next week,
we will be at full bore. We've got 3 people that were all hired last summer, because that's the cycle that we've been on recently is really we get people pretty much brand new out of law school mostly.
Okay, so you have a total of how many FTEs that you've added this year that are new?
The 3 positions that you're looking at are the only 3 of the spots that we're looking for. And the drug diversion person is moving in terms of which space they're occupying. They were on the MacArthur.
Okay.
MacArthur is willing to pick up the programming costs if we pick up the FTE cost. And we actually, and it's not in the budget because it's brand new, we actually have somebody that wants to assist us by reimbursing a portion of that. We didn't change anything because it was just, it's not even finalized yet, but so we're working on that one, and then the other 2 are the true new ones.
Okay. Commission,
Madam
discussion?
Chair, relative to the investigator, I would just suggest that State's Attorney's Office works with Human Resources and come up with the most appropriate title to that.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call. Ms. Gare?
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
No. 4 ayes, 1 no, motion is carried. Item 6. To combine State's Attorney, Law Enforcement, Health and Human Services budget into new budget under MacArthur called Safety and Justice Challenge.
Move for approval.
Moved by LaCroy,
I'll second that for
second by
discussion.
Drews, and then discussion.
I just asked Cindy to give a little bit further explanation on how this works.
When we're working on our annual financial reports, things are reported by function. So we have general government function, which is the board, the auditor's office, the treasurer's office, IT, HR. We have law enforcement function, being the sheriff's office and detox, et cetera. And then we have legal function, which is where the state's attorney's office and public defender's office come in. So we have to report those in the appropriate function. And when we first came in with MacArthur, and I was discussing this with the state auditors, you know, they're like, well, if you're going to have somebody from the sheriff's office working, they have to be charged to law enforcement function. State's attorney has to be to the legal function, so that has to go to the general government. And human resources, or health and human services has to go to that function. So we did split it up into 3. And as we've worked more with this and learned more about the whole purpose of this grant, we determined that we could put it all under law enforcement in a sense. So we're going to change the name of it and report it as a law enforcement function. It's public safety, really, and that's where it belongs.
Okay.
So does it have to run through like Health and Human Services, and State's Attorney have to run through Kevin? Is there someone like in charge of that grant, or are they able to separate their areas still so they can basically function separately in those 3 different, in State's Attorney, Law Enforcement, and Health and Human Services?
The presentation that you had on MacArthur,
Right.
Was it last meeting? And Liz was explaining everything that they do. She pretty much controls, or I don't want to say controls, but she handles those budgets. Even though they were 3 separate budgets, she was still working with all those numbers. So she'll continue to do that.
The main thing is that in those 3 budgets, that the state's attorneys and Health and Human Services are separated in a sense that they're not combined in a way that if Barry needs a certain area that he's doing, that he has the money that Mr. Vargo does, that they don't have to go through law enforcement. Is that a good way to put it?
It would go through MacArthur. They
Okay.
would go through Liz to discuss all of the, because they sit down and collaborate, all 3 different departments. So they would sit down with Liz and go over what their needs are for that budget.
Madam Chair, if I could, it really works almost like this kind of a budget hearing, except that it's only 2 people. It's the sheriff and the presiding judge, Judge Fifley. And we kind of have a budget that we present to MacArthur. If we change it from there based on our needs, and Liz, I think, did a wonderful job of showing you guys how we've changed in response to situations changing on the ground, then we meet again and they have to reauthorize it. We send that to MacArthur. It comes back. So Liz does the legwork. The sheriff and the presiding judge are the ones who decide whether That's what we want to do, and then we get approval from MacArthur.
So so everyone is, so is it come in as, I forgot, is it come in as programs? Why I'm saying this is, with Barry's programs and things that he does get grants and he does get funding, but just to make sure it's fair through each entity that they're getting the things they need in order to move forward instead of it being just you already know,
I
in
think
one
I understand
area.
what you're asking, and really
Okay.
what it means is, when we ask for these grants, we didn't just say, MacArthur, give us, X million dollars.
It's
We tell
separate.
them what we're going to be doing.
Okay.
And that's that collaborative part that we put together. If we modify that, then we go back to them.
Yeah.
So if we modify it in terms of all of a sudden we decide that we don't need, the sheriff's office doesn't need somebody, and they're willing to have that FTE be filled by the MacArthur, or MacArthur actually took half an FTE for us to assist the county commission in that 10% cut that we were doing because of COVID. They took on a half FTE. We ran that past the sheriff and the PJ, and then submitted it to MacArthur, and they agreed to it. So, I mean, we have a mechanism to change it, but it's kind of a presumptive budget. If Barry runs out of money, he can't just come get mine without talking to somebody. He doesn't necessarily have to get my approval, but he has to get the PJ and the sheriff on board.
Madam
Thank
Chair.
you. I appreciate what you're saying because it makes a difference when you have this budgeted and then you go, okay, this is more important than yours, so I'm just gonna, so it's not like one lump sum. Those programs are what they are, and if those programs are changed, then they're coming back to a board or a position in an area where they can change it and not just take the money.
Yep, you got it.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroy.
Yeah, exactly, Deb. I mean, we sit down and we go through the budget, and it's with programs, and they are what they are. And Liz spreads them out. I think what this is doing is more helpful to Cindy,
Yeah.
because, it all still goes through, it's all planned and code, and then Liz has to code it out, or you have to separate it out. So I think this is basically helping Cindy out more than it is anything else. It's still gonna go through the board, still gonna go through Liz, and the programs that are there. If something needs to change, the board changes it and goes through MacArthur and so forth, so.
Thank you.
Madam
Thank
Chair.
you for that explanation, Mr. Vargo. Commissioner Drews.
Cindy, could this include funds from other than MacArthur?
MacArthur is set up as a specific fund,
That's, I know.
so that is all that we can have within that budget is the MacArthur
Okay.
dollars. And
So
the
if Health and
MacArthur expenditures.
Health and Human Services receives money from another nonprofit or something, that can't go within the,
No, that would not be put in the MacArthur fund. That
Okay.
would go into the general fund under donations revenue.
okay.
And can I add one more thing?
Yes.
I'm really simplifying Liz's life
Yeah,
by combining all three of these budgets. I mean,
you
yes,
are.
it makes it nice on my side too, because I don't have three separate lines to report it on. But as they're working through their budget, they don't have to stop and think, oh, he's a sheriff employee, so I have to make sure I have his wages in that budget within this fund. So it makes it easier for them as well.
Thank you. So we do have a motion by LaCroy, second by Drews. Ms. Kara, please.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 7, please.
Madam Chair, I'd move to continue this until the September 17th Board of Commissioners meeting.
Okay, there's a motion by Drews,
Second.
second by Ross Connect. Any other discussion? Miss Cindy, any discussion? Nope, okay. Miss Kara.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. You want a 5-minute break? What?
Madam
Miss-
Chair.
Yeah, we need to make sure it's on record that you did ask for public comment on the budget the way it is presented right now.
Okay, do we have any public comment on the budget, how it's presented today? Ms. Karen? Just kidding. Okay, if not, thank you, Ms. Holly. 5-minute break before we start the Board of
Move
Adjustment.
to take a 5-minute break.
Moved by Ross Connect, second by LaCroy. All in favor, yes. Go ahead, roll call.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye, motion carries.
Give Jason some time to get prepared.
Jason,
Move to go back to regular session.
moved by Drews,
Second.
second by LaCroy. Roll call, please.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye, motion carries.
Now I'd make a motion that we go to Board of Adjustment.
Move to go in Board of Adjustment by Drews, second by LaCroy. Roll call, please.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy, Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye, motion carries. Jason, sorry.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners. Jason Thennison, County Planner. Agenda item A
Just for a second.
is subdivision regulations variance 20-03. The applicants are David and Carrie Kelting. The agent is Fisk Land Surveying, and Janelle is in the audience if you have any questions for her. Site location is Tigerville Road, north of the intersection of Tigerville and Deerfield Roads. The applicants, David and Carrie Kelting, are in the process of subdividing one existing lot into two lots under layout plan 20-22. The applicant's agent has submitted the subdivision regulations variance to waive two requirements. Number one being any additional improvements to Tigerville Road, and number two, percolation tests and soil profile hole information. The Pennington County subdivision regulations requires that the Board of County Commissioners shall review that certain criteria when considering subdivision regulations variance requests. They are on the screen for your consideration. I'll read staff's responses, beginning with number one. Creating proposed Lot 4B of Tigerville subdivision will increase traffic density on Tigerville Road. This request should not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or general welfare, injurious to other adjoining properties. Number two, there appears to be no particular physical surroundings, shape, or topographic conditions that would cause undue hardship to the owner. Strict application of this zoning ordinance, or this ordinance, would require the applicant to improve Tigerville Road to Ordinance 14 standards and submit percolation test and soil profile hole information. Number three, Tigerville Road is within the Tigerville Road District. Therefore, granting this variance should not cause any increase in public costs. And lastly, number four, future land use of the proposed Lot 4B is identified as low-density residential district. Granting this variance will not place the subdivision in nonconformance with Pennington County zoning ordinance or Pennington County comprehensive plan. The request was sent out for interdepartmental review. County Highway had a comment that County Highway has no comment since it is within the Tigerville Road District and should not impact drainage. Staff tried to reach out to the Tigerville Road District, but was unable to make contact with them. Staff's analysis of the request is that the creation of the additional lot will increase traffic density on Tigerville Road, and the applicant is required to improve Tigerville Road to Pennington County Ordinance Number 14 standards or obtain this subdivision regulations variance. The applicant's agent applied for this variance to subdivision regulations in order to waive this requirement along with soil profile hole percolation tests. On August 24th, 2020, the Planning Commission approved Layout Plan 20-22 with 9 conditions. Granting this variance will satisfy condition number 2 of that request. Staff does not support this variance to subdivision regulations as there will be an increase in lot density on Tigerville Road and it should be improved to Ordinance 14 standards. However, if the board does choose to approve it, staff recommends 2 conditions be included.
A motion or discussion?
Move to approve.
Moved by Ross Connect,
Second.
second by LaCroy. Discussion? Roll call, please.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye, motion carries.
Move to close
Second.
Board of Adjustments.
Ms. Janelle, did you want to speak on this? I didn't think so. Motion by LaCroy to close Board of Adjustment,
Second.
second by Ross Connect. Roll call, please.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Item B, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brittany Molitor, Planning Director. Item B is Ordinance Amendment OA 20-05 to amend Section 510 Conditional Use Permits to amend and supersede the existing 510 Conditional Use Permits of the Pennington County Zoning Ordinance. The first reading of this ordinance amendment was approved by the Board of Commissioners on August 18th, 2020. Some of the biggest changes in this is the appellate scheme. Currently in our Section 510, the appellate scheme is not correct and in line with state statutes, so we made those changes. And we did clarify some of the criteria when considering conditional uses. There is actual an appeal process, the review and the expiration and revocation hearings actually spelled out in this section. So staff is recommending approval of the second reading of this ordinance amendment.
We have a motion or discussion?
I'd make a motion to approve.
Motion by Drews,
Second.
second by LaCroy. Any discussion? If not, Ms. Kara?
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye. Motion carries. Item C, please.
Item C is Plan Unit Development Review PU 0801 to review a plan unit development to allow 3 existing mobile homes, a home occupation, and outbuildings in accordance with Section 213 of the Pennington County Zoning Ordinance. This property was rezoned to low-density residential district. Therefore, this plan unit development is no longer needed. So staff is recommending to end this plan unit development since it is no longer needed.
Thank you. Do you have a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Moved by Ross Connect,
Second.
second by Drews. Any discussion? Not? Ms. Kara?
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye. Motion approved. We keeping you awake, Ms. Kara?
Yes.
Next item D, please. We don't want you sleeping, Ms. Kara, over there.
Item D is a proposed road naming for a 20-foot wide section line road to be dedicated as public access, which will begin approximately 1 mile south of the intersection of Paulson Road and Quinn Road. This is north of Wall, and it is located in the Lake Hill Township number 5. And staff is recommending approval of the road name Paposick Road with the condition that the applicant be responsible for payment and posting of a road name sign in a timely manner in accordance with the standards set forth by the township.
Move for approval.
Moved by DeSanto,
Second.
second by LaCroy. Any discussion? Not? Ms. Kara, please.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye. Motion carries. Item E, please.
Item E is layout plan 20-12 to create 4 lots from one existing lot. Each lot will be approximately 3 acres. The Board of Commissioners did approve this layout plan 20-12 on July 7th, 2020. Excuse me, this is actually the preliminary plat for this subdivision 20-21. There will be 4 lots, and they range from 3.1 acres to 3.5 acres. This is located off of Old Hill City Road. This was routed through the interdepartmental review. There was no items of concern that came back. The property owner on this subject property has done the soil profile holes, and they were evaluated and approved by the planning department. On June 20th, they did apply for this preliminary plat as conditions 1, 2, and 3 of the layout plan have been satisfied, and staff is recommending approval of this preliminary plat with conditions.
Do you have a motion or
Move to
discussion?
approve.
Moved by Ross Connect,
Second for discussion.
second by LaCroy. Any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Drews.
Brittany, remind me again. Okay, this is preliminary plat. What's the next step?
The final plat, so the final plat is actually where they create the Mylar, and then the conditions that are approved today, the planning director or myself reviews those, and then it is recorded with the Register of Deeds.
Okay, thank you.
So Commissioner Drews, we are looking out at kind of changing into maybe layout plan.
Yeah.
And then preliminary plan, and then layout or final plat.
Plan, and then the plat. The plat is actually the document.
Right, that's
and then
finished.
we're actually reviewing the plans, so that's kind of the language.
So it's going to be layout plan, preliminary plan, and final plan,
plan.
and the final plan is always ran through you. They don't have to come to us. Basically, they can get their building permit at that final plan.
Right, so when they submit the final plan, there's a 30-day, I have up to 30 days to review it, and then that's when they can file it with the Register of Deeds, the actual Mylar.
Nice. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
I only have one area of concern, and maybe Commissioner Ross Connect can speak to this. They're planning on building on these lots, I'm assuming.
Yes, single-family residential.
And are they going to be putting in paved roads?
I do not believe so. I believe that there are going to be gravel roads. There's only, they are going to take access off of Old Hill City Road. There's only one access easement. It looks like Lot D will take access off an easement.
Okay. I guess the question I have is whenever we're putting in grading and putting in gravel and something that's going to change drainage, there's a creek nearby there that I'm wondering if that's going to be affected by the drainage into that, or that the drainage from that subdivision is going to wind up polluting that creek that runs into Keystone from Hill City.
Miss Brittany.
Sure. So at the building permit process, we do have a process now where we do a stormwater permit review. That was a change in that section 507 that went through the committee, that this board did approve that ordinance amendment. So with the building permit, we do look at the stormwater erosion control and some of the drainage improvements that are required during that process.
Okay. Thank you, Brittany.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Ross Connect.
So I'm assuming that, these lots in that location, they'd be conducive to some pretty nice single-family residences, and a lot of times, I'm seeing in that neighborhood, Jim Skull did a lot of stuff in that area. The owners will probably take it upon themselves to pave it. They're more like driveways, and so I'm assuming that the owner or the owners could potentially pave their driveways, later on in the future.
They could, we don't, our ordinance doesn't have a specific requirement for.
I'm just trying to address the access, I guess, to each one of those parcels could be more of a driveway than a street or a road.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroy.
I agree. I think Mark's point down there is down at the bottom of that deal. I think the landowner actually made more of a creek and dug out more drainage through it because it used to be spread out into a field. Now it's kind of got a gully in there from the past. My question was across the street. When I was out in that area Sunday, I noticed across the street that a road's going in, and I didn't see no signs.
So that is actually another layout plan that you guys will see at your next meeting. It will be in front of Planning Commission at the next Planning Commission meeting. And then the Board of Commissioners, they have submitted a layout plan for property across the street.
Okay.
Thank you. So we do have a motion by Ross Connect, second by LaCroy. Ms. Kara, please.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye. Motion carries. Item F, please.
Item F is layout plan LPL 20-23 to create tracks A, B, C, D, and E of Denke Ranch Addition. These properties are located outside of Wall off of Creighton Road. The purpose of this layout plan application is to subdivide the lots to use for agricultural use. Currently, it consists of two lots. One is a little over 200 acres, and one lot size is about 5.77 acres. There is a single-family residence that was built in approximately 1928 that is on the larger parcel. The smaller parcel does not contain any structures. The proposed tracts range from 23 acres to 5 acres with the new subdivision, or with our new comprehensive plan. General Agriculture District will go down to 10 acres, so there will not be a lot size or a rezone requirement for tracts A, B, C, and D. However, tract E will require a rezone or a lot size variance. This was routed through the interdepartmental review process. There were no items of concern that came about. For the purposes of this layout plan, staff finds no significant issues with the applicant's request, as it appears to be in harmony with the existing lots and land uses in the area. So staff is recommending approval of this layout plan with conditions.
Do we have a motion or discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Roskinick.
Brittany, this is going to come back to haunt us every time we go through one of these, but when you say permanently anchored, that's item number 7. That is very subjective. If I go out there with a metal stake that's 3 feet long, is that permanent, or does it got to be a concrete casing on? I'm just, in the future, I really like to nail down what permanently is and have some definition behind it, so people don't come up to me in the future and say, Commissioner Roskinick, what's permanent? Because I really don't know anymore.
Sure, and I think that our office had discussed that. I think it'll be better addressed when we look at the building codes and building inspection requirements.
Okay, just wanted to bring it up.
So Brittany, how do you consider permanently anchored now?
Right now, if it's not on skids, if it can't be picked up and moved relatively easy without any kind of modification or undoing, most of them that we look at that we don't permit are sheds because they're on skids. They come and they're placed down. They're not on any kind of foundation or any kind of caissons or footings into the ground.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroy.
I would tend to agree with that. I understand where Mr. Ostick is going. You know, I know on certifications for some HUD housing for modular homes, they have to be staked. And the stakes make them permanent, and I don't know what they are, 3 feet, something like that. That's what they consider to be.
But in Hill City, there's a tent next to me, my office, and they got stakes that are probably 4 feet long. It's for the rally, and it's just there for a couple months. And that looks pretty permanent to me, but yet those stakes can be pulled out and this thing can be picked up and moved. So I'll just be glad when we can sit there and say, here's a definition of permanent.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
We need a motion.
Move for approval.
Moved by LaCroy, second by DeSanto. Any other discussion? Not. Roll call, Ms. Carroll.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Roskinick,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye. Motion carries. Item G, Jason.
Morning, again, Commissioners. Jason Fennison, County Planner. Agenda item G is Layout Plan 20-22. The applicants are David and Carrie Kelting. Again, the agent is Fiscal Land Surveying, and Janelle's in the audience if you have questions for her. The applicant's agent has requested Layout Plan 20-22 in order to subdivide one lot and create lots 4A and 4B of Tract 3 of Tigerville subdivision. As the property sits today, it's zoned low-density residential district consisting of 6.02 acres. It's currently platted. However, staff did note that the plat contains an error. It reads at 6.02 acres, whereas the property was actually surveyed at 6.52 acres. There's a typo on that. Access is provided off Tigerville Road. There's no special flood hazard area on the property. The property does contain a double-wide mobile home, a 30 by 40 detached garage, 4 sheds and a carport. 3 of the sheds, staff noted, were not permitted at the time of the layout plan's original submission. So we did open an ordinance violation against that. Since then, the applicants have complied with the building permitting requirements. So that is not noted as a condition of approval on this layout plat any longer.
Commissioner Drews.
So Jason, do we need to make a correction on that size then?
No, they'll make that on the layout plan when they submit it.
Okay. So as we approve it though, do we acknowledge that it's in error at this point in time, or is that already taken care of?
That's already filed with the Register of Deeds,
Okay.
so it's at 6.02 acres. Once the applicants submit their minor plat moving forward, then we'll get it corrected that way.
Okay.
They change it at the preliminary plat, not the layout plan, or preliminary plan, whatever you want to call it.
I think as it stands right now, the next step for these folks is the minor plat, which will move forward with that, and then after that's approved, they can file it with the Register of Deeds through the Mylar and get that lot size updated.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ross Connect, second by Drews. Commission, what I was talking to Colin about is Colin was, and Brittany are gonna be changing ordinances and different things in our planning department. And Janelle Fisk has been in this business a long time. She's very easy to work with and she has a lot of knowledge. And I was asking Colin yesterday to contact Janelle, which is funny, she's here today in a good way. If you want help with anything or you need explanation, a lot of time Janelle, again, simplifies that process, plus she knows that process inside and out. And many times when I was at the city, and not so much at the county, because once you get somebody that you trust and you know that they know their job, when she got here, I usually agreed with what she was doing because she looked at it inside out and find those solutions with our departments and didn't cause us lots of issues doing these things, working with us. So whether it be city or county. So bottom line is, Colin, that's why today Janelle Fisk is here doing her, what she does best for her engineering, but she'd be great for what you guys are moving forward with, and she has a lot of common sense with it, which you said most of us do not have, so. I didn't mean to throw you under the bus, but it's a good thing. So you'll find that a lot of us do it just in how we do it professionally or in this process. We need a lot of it right now because like you said, and it is true, we have a lot of stuff that doesn't need to be in there and other stuff that needs to be upheld a little bit differently through the verbiage and through state law that we are not following in a certain way that could be changed and hopefully simplified, which I loved what Colin said, simplify so the general public can understand it as well as us commissioners, because when it's not, it's very hard to understand. Sorry, I got off the topic of this, but it's huge for what's coming next for Pennington County and our planning department and with Jason and Brittany and his team, Janelle can be a great piece for us. So anyway, I said my piece again. So anyway, there is a motion by Ross Connect, second by DeSanto. Ms. Kara.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Jason. You're doing good, Jason. You talk too much, Jason, but other than that, you're good. Just kidding. Okay, items from chair and commission members. First, reminder of next meeting is Thursday, the 17th, due to SDACC annual convention. So don't forget, that'd be me and Ross Connect or DeSanto Moore. And item B is 2020 proposed resolution and policy statement, South Dakota Association of County Commissioners. Gary Drews, if you'd like to have some discussion on that or anything that if we need to oppose or approve or move forward helping you on some of the things that they are doing that would affect Pennington County.
Madam Chair, I think everything is listed here. Most of these are just continuation of policies by the County Commission Association. There is again I don't know if Commissioner DeSanto noticed this, but there is a resolution this year again calling for sales tax for counties for infrastructure needs. And similar to, I think the language is very similar and maybe actually the same as the legislation that was proposed last year that never got out of committee. So, but it's a local option, sales tax. So for counties that have needs for infrastructure, they could propose to their constituents to have a sales tax to generate the dollars for maybe repair of a courthouse or the infrastructure leading to that courthouse, or it would fall under basically what's considered infrastructure. So it's not just a freewheeling sales tax to be used for anything. It has to be specifically designated. But otherwise, the other policies, and there's lots of them that have, and many of these policies have continued for years through the county Commissioners Association, and not too much of a change this year.
And these were all due pass by the South Dakota.
Right, yes, they were due pass, and I'm thinking that the sales tax one is the only actual resolution that came in as new.
No,
No, is there more than that?
there's two other ones this year.
Do you remember what they are, Holly?
One is for funding for repair of a road leading to the State Veteran Cemetery in Minnehaha. And I'm drawing a blank on what the third one was.
Gary,
Yes, Mark.
Was there anything presented as far as changing the open meeting rules when
No.
we have emergencies like COVID?
No,
Okay,
nothing that came forward.
okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah, the other one is, that Holly just mentioned, is the one is it's called the Slip Up Creek Road, and it's by Sioux Falls, and this goes to the State Veteran Cemetery. That's a gravel road presently. The next resolution was up to the 1 cent temporary sales tax for specific infrastructure, and the third one was relative to abatement of taxes on flooded lands. This is primarily, again, of interest to counties in eastern South Dakota.
I'd make the motion to approve our support for the three resolutions.
Second.
Motion by LaCroy, second by Drews. Do we need discussion? If not, roll call, please.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Roskinick,
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Next is committee reports. Mark DeSanto, LAPC.
Yes, attended the LAPC meeting. Matt Culbertson was recognized for his many, many years of service. I believe he's been on that committee for pretty close to 20 years and served as president for, I think, 4. Dustin could probably correct me on that, but he decided to retire. However, has pledged that if we need him back, he'd be happy to come back. So he'll probably be president again next year. And let's see, anything else? Oh, Hazmat has a particular program application that allows anyone that's on a hazmat scene with this application to have access to how chemicals react with one another. And basically, it's like a guide map how to handle hazmat problems that they can get immediately onto their phone or computer. And we renewed the lease on that, or the app cost on that program. And that's about it to report for that. The fair was, in my opinion, a great success. I know that a lot of us attended the rodeos and the Octane Editions and the Extreme Bronx. Extreme Bronx was extremely well attended, as it was last year. And I think it's just going to grow, especially if we are through this COVID situation by next year. Because of our ability to keep the fair open and host these rodeos, we've had additional events want to come to Rapid City. One of them is going to happen on the 22nd of September. And right now I can't recall the name of the event, but it's a national event that I believe will be televised on the Cowboy Channel as well, just like Extreme Bronx was. And we got a message the other day I wanted to bring up from the fire coordinator, just to let people know, if they're watching us online, that fire danger starting Wednesday, and I believe going through next Monday, is going to be extremely high because we're going to have winds combined with hot weather, combined with extremely low humidity, which is a perfect combination to get wildfires started. Hopefully, we won't have afternoon thunderstorms or lightning that comes in because we may be in big trouble. But I would ask people to take great precaution when up hiking in the hills or playing at the lake or whatever, to make sure that they aren't throwing their cigarettes around, leaving campfires burning, and that type of thing, and that their spark arresters are in good condition on their ATVs. We don't want to burn the Black Hills down. There's a lot of fuel out there, and we need to take every precaution we can to prevent a similar situation as to what is happening in California and Colorado at this point in time. And there's one other thing I wanted to talk about, but I can't remember. Oh, yes. As Mark Vargo mentioned today, we have had some threats by Black Lives Matter movement regarding Mount Rushmore. And as one of the county commissioners, I won't speak for the rest of you, but you might all agree that I would support our sheriff in any way, shape, or form to do whatever he deems necessary to keep that situation under control. And I would encourage our governor to do whatever it is necessary to keep that situation under control as well. We don't need this problem presenting itself in South Dakota. So that's all I have to report.
Next is Ron Roskinick.
Via Zoom, I attended a Rapid City MPO meeting. It was a meeting to discuss the proposed tax increment project, and I'm just going to read the dialogue here. I thought this was pretty important issue, and it was voted unanimously to support, but the district would, the tax increment district will capture incremental tax funds in order to construct a portion of Homestead Street between Timmins Boulevard and Missoula Street, located in the Big Sky Business Park, providing direct access to Valley View Elementary School and East Middle School from Elkvale Road. So if you're familiar where Dan's Valley Market is, when you go down Homestead, you take a left and you go around a bunch of neighborhoods to reconnect with Homestead Street. So this will create a 900-foot corridor, and the city's going to participate with the owner of this property to develop that 900 feet, which will provide you with direct access from North Elkvale to Big Sky Business Park and into the school district. So I thought that was a good step, good faith for the city to step in. That's going to be about a $3.5 million project. Then we attended via Zoom the building committee, where we're trying to figure out different methods to dispose of the 725 North Lacrosse Street. And then the ribbon cutting at the fair.
Okay. Anything else, Commissioner?
I think that's pretty much covers it.
Thank you. I also attended the fair and the ribbon cutting, and then went to another event with the rodeo, and the fair was down this year, but it was still good. I mean, it's always good to get out and get some fresh air and watch some of the areas in the county with agriculture and the people that participate. So I always enjoy it. I also attended a conference on mental health. It was called Mission Hope. I really liked when they talked about self-care for employees, that we are in the new normal, and that they had different techniques. They had personality tests and personal sharing. They encouraged that we need to start having people have personal sharing with each other in the departments, meaning if people need to tell how they're feeling at the time, or what they're feeling about, that it's a good thing to ignore that and to think that everybody is just always okay at work is not the thing anymore. Basically, they also said, bottom line, better you makes better team, which I liked. To keep yourself healthy in ways of exercise and different things that we could encourage through the county is huge right now. Because people, again, the mental health and the physical health is going to be huge for all of us, including our employees, and we do care about our employees. And we want to make sure that they are doing okay in any way we can help. So I like that. I also, they talked about on this mental health conference about ACEs, which is prevention in youth, and how adverse childhood experiences can make a difference in people's lives. The triage center, they talked about that from Sioux Falls with their Mayor Paul. Barry and Willie were on it with their, talked about their 10 to 30 years experience, which was very good, about what we're doing. Let's see. They also talked about the criminal justice system, key to mental illness. I think, and it's not just for judges and first responders. For me, it's for many people. So they have an understanding of who they're dealing with. We find that a lot of times when we don't know, we're afraid. So somebody could look like they're dangerous when we talk to them long enough. They might not be dangerous. They might just have these needs or these mental areas, disabilities that we need to figure out. So they teach them about, talking, and there's books and different things that people could read to update themselves on these areas. They're talking about the new asylums, articles for mental illness institutions. That was pretty good. They talked about diagnosis, telling everybody and saying different words make a difference. Suffering is what most people think when you say the word. Uncertainty is the thing that causes fear, but people do get better. So what they did is they had a lady on there, and it was a pretty amazing story. Her daughter was like the best at everything in high school. Academics, athlete, everything. She was like top notch. She hit about 18, 19 years old. She went to college. And this lady was not in the mental, wasn't a therapist or anything like that. She was just telling her story. And she said, then all of a sudden she went to college and all these things started happening. Her disability through her mental disability started to affect her in a way that she had to drop out of college. They did get her help. A lady at college actually recognized it of all people and said, ma'am, I think your daughter has some disabilities, mental disabilities. No, my daughter's fine, until they figured out that she did. And it was, the weird thing is a lot of people, and I've learned this through friends, that at like 18 or 19, for some reason, it comes out. And I don't know, they've noticed a few things in between, but I don't know if hormones change or what just triggers people. Maybe it's going out into the world at that age. I have no idea, but it just turns them into whole different people, and they're hearing voices and different things like that. And maybe they did before, but for some reason it hits a certain age and it just goes boom a lot more. And I haven't figured out that not that I'm supposed to, but it's mind boggling to me when you hear about it. And I've had 8-year-old that I've known since she was a girl since she was 8 that I've known that I knew there were some issues, but I really didn't know how far. She didn't talk too much, and she was the nice girl. She was a great scholar. Same with the same story. In this case, she's still out there, and she does have some criminal background now and everything. She turned into a whole different person. So, in this lady that she was, when she was telling about her daughter, it was just an amazing story. And then she said, then she went into be a therapist. She was in the mental disabilities area where she became a therapist. But then in the end, it got her. She ended up walking into a train. She said the voices were more prevalent at that time, and she said the voices, and her daughter had told her the voices were telling her to do things to herself back then. And then all of a sudden she thought everything was good. She was supposed to speak at the seminar, her daughter was, 3 days later, before she had killed herself and walked into a train. So It just tells you, and if you've had people that you've dealt with in mental disabilities, how important it is in our society to be skilled and to be updated and to be trained in these areas, because that was the emphasis, is the training we think we have as first responders or people in general, that we just think they're weird people or crazy people in a sense, and it's not. They're just your sister, their brother, anybody you might know that one day they just snap into a point where they're in the criminal justice system. And there needs to be, and we are working on that, I know that, different ways of dealing with people that have these type of disabilities, because remember, these were people that were scholars and people that were just amazing in their life, and then all of a sudden they're still amazing, but they need more help. They need more things to make their lives better. So it was an awesome class. And then I also went into meet with Barry and Dominique Charleston, Prosperity Initiatives, a lady with a lot of knowledge. I always had an issue, and I'll be up straight, about people calling poor people vulnerable. Vulnerable to me, growing up poor, sounds like I'm kind of stupid and that I'm vulnerable and people could take advantage of me. So I never was getting it when people were calling people vulnerable. The main thing in this class, it also said words matter, words trigger people. So for some reason that triggers me as something different, as a person growing up poor. But Dominique was one of the people that I respect a lot, because she put it in a perspective with poverty and poor and people calling different classes of people, which I understand to a certain extent, because some people have more money than others, but that doesn't make them stupid because they don't have as much money as you. So she described poverty at a certain level. She called people, it's more a disconnected poor, a dependent poor, and a working class poor. It makes sense in a certain way of explaining to me what you're saying with vulnerability. And through the vulnerability, some people, she said, were Christless, were vulnerable. Those were the people that had the mental illness and need help. Those were disconnected poor, where they actually needed services. Then she called dependent poor, was always on services, big brother mentality, thinking big brother needs to take care of them. And then she called the working class poor, which is the people that are working hard. And those are the people that just, for some reason, just can't hit that next step. Those are the people that I think you can, a lot of times, can push to that next step because they don't want to be there. They just need to know how. They need those skills and those life skills just a little bit more. We all need that life skill just a little bit more. And she gave me a few books to read. The Ruby Payne book, which is funny because I was at the Goodwill, which I like to shop at. It was funny, they had a book on basically people that needed help, that weren't making as much money, which was a good book. The framework of, I can't remember, poverty or something like that. And it got me started on all this, because in my work that I do off of this commission, I deal with a lot of the people in these steps, in these areas, and I wasn't, I didn't class them somewhere, I just classed them in the same area, in a sense. And you forget how you grew up, and this book was telling you these things that you forget. We never forget where we come from in a certain extent, but there's areas you forgot in certain things that mattered more when you were at that level than others. And they talk about how the middle class or anything above that, we class everybody and we try to put everybody in that same area, and they should want what we want. They need what we want. They should be where we're at. Why don't you want this kind of thing? And it was very interesting to remember back, if you can, when you didn't have anything and what was important to you, and then try to reiterate that into other people's lives, because you're going, okay, I did it. Why can't you do it? That kind of thing. So it was very interesting. And then bottom line is, I told Barry I'd like to learn more on some of this, and I will be reading books, but it was weird that I saw at the Goodwill something that actually triggered me to want to learn more about these areas that I forgot. So anyway, we also had a meeting with the mayor, me and Brittany and Dale Tech and Ken, the planning director of the city. So I do go to meetings offside. So it looks like I don't have any meetings on the non-scheduled, but on the backside to talk about the mile and 3 mile limit. Brittany's going to be working with Ken through the planning area to see if we can find some areas where we can coincide with the city and simplify our planning process, and with Colin. That's why Colin is key. I found also that Colin's very knowledgeable about many things, which is cool, and is fired up about that. So he'll be a good resource for Pennington County from where he came from at the AG's office. Also, I'm speaking for you, Colin. I liked when I visited with Colin yesterday his passion for what he does. So I think we're going to come out with some pretty amazing stuff. And he also believes, like the rest of us, limited government and simplify the process. If I could speak for you again, Colin, and that's kind of where we want to go for the future of the planning department and our area, so people can actually understand what they're reading. So thank you, Colin, for that understanding and where you're going. We'll see if it goes there. Just kidding. Okay, Mr. Drews, sorry.
Ron's already covered the building committee, healthcare trust board. Continue to work on providing more convenience for the people that are enrolled in our health plans. In addition to that, John, is there anything else that really need to report? Financially, it's solid, it's stable. There seems to always be about the same amount, about 3.6 million that's available for claims, and so it's been a very excellent program. Just on Planning Commission, this was my month to serve on Planning Commission, or August was, and we've dealt with most of those issues already at this board level. And government affairs, that was there was no meeting for government affairs, governmental affairs. So the chamber for August and September, it'll be actually primarily the mayor, Steve Allender, will be giving like a city of the state report, and then I think either in October or November, I don't remember which, I will do that on behalf of the county also. And then just one touch on Central States Fair. I did attend several of the events there. I also had the opportunity to walk around and talk to some of the vendors. And the vendors just bent over backwards of saying their appreciation to the board and the staff for being able to have the Central States Fair. They were telling me that, they do their ordering of materials for these kind of things in November, December, and January. And so essentially the what do we have in January? The stock show. The stock show was really the first and last thing that many of these vendors had been able to be a part of, and they had all of their stuff ordered to have all these events around the country. And so this was extremely important to them to be able to come to the Central States Fair because of the merchandise that they had on hand, that they had planned on using for several different events. And we were one of the few that was actually held. So they was very appreciative of the fact that the staff and the board worked out the details in order to conduct the Central States Fair this year. And I think it was a great show. I enjoy rodeos, so I attended several of the rodeos. It's always good when you can have the governor come and exhibit the state flag as in the arena as she did. She was also presented with a pair of custom-made chaps. Jim Hunt did the presentation, and Jim did an excellent job with that presentation. But we appreciate having the governor being able to be here for that event and be a part of it. So I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Gary. And Jim Hunt is a wonderful man. He's always such a gentle man, isn't he? If you want to meet just a wonderful man, Jim Hunt is, he bends over backwards for people too. So just a nice guy.
And Mark, since you weren't there, I got to be on the wagon in the event Saturday night. And I think most of that board that was on it with me, they appreciated me more than they did you. So.
Well, you lucky dog.
Whoa, Gary's
Just
getting
trying
real
to keep
funny.
everybody safe.
Commissioner LaCroy.
Um, I, I chaired the TIF meeting that Ron just talked about with the Homestead TIF committee approval. This was a long time coming, and I make it a point at those TIF meetings, every meeting, to bring up the side streets that some of these are doing, and I brought one up again this time, and it was Neal Street. Just a thought for this commission. I think when these tips come through, I would probably like to forward them on to our highway department to look at them, because in these districts, you know, they're making sure the city's streets are up to standard when they're building these, but the outlying ones are kind of left at them. And if we look at this one, I believe Neal Street's another one. It's not the standard when it goes to Twilight. And so, you know, these are some things that I mentioned at that meeting that we probably need to do, is send forward these TIF districts to Joe and have the engineering look at them, see what kind of effect they have, because we could work with the developers in one way or another to get these side streets fixed, I believe. So that was part of the TIF committee meeting. Other one I had was the Zoom with the Community Health Board meeting. They approved their budget for 2020, and they did some ordinance changes or policy changes, which is pretty typical. Otherwise, nothing really new to report there. The Black Hills National Forest Advisory Board, we did a field trip, an all-day field trip on August 19th, which was very informative. We did the Shanks Trailhead, visited there. The Pactola Visitor Center, we looked at that, stopped there. Some Native American groups from Pine Ridge are looking at, would like to turn Pactola Visitor Center into a cultural center, education along with visitor center. That they're looking at it and coming up with proposals. So that was one of the reasons why we stopped there. The Riley Hill Trailhead, we stopped there. We had lunch at the Fox Campground. This is the one I was telling Mr. Rosknecht about. I never even knew about some of this stuff. That's why I love going on these tours, because I'd never been there. That's where I'd gotten stopped by a resident and wanted mag water on the road. But another one was some of the range improvements, water projects that they had going on. We stopped at the Pearl's historic site. I never knew that. That was when Custer first come into town. They call it the Pearl Historic Site up there. Don't ask me what it was until I got there and they explained it was, they call it the Pearls Trailhead historic site because of all the, what do they call those wagons covered wagons that you were in? They lined the whole road and it kind of looked like a pearl. That's why they got named the Pearl Historic Site. We visited also the Deerfield area, and we also did the McVeigh Burn Restoration Area, which was interesting because that's where there was a big burn back in 1930s, and when they reseeded, they took some seeds from Colorado, and they weren't native seeds, and so if you look at the difference in the trees, they're obviously different from Black Hills. They don't grow they grow more limby and mossy, and there's a big difference, and so they're in the process of restoring, cutting those down, timbering it, and actually replanting native Black Hills seeds in that area. So that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner LaCroy. I agree. And I never thought about it, but I should have before. infrastructure with those TIFs,
Yeah.
drainage and side streets in different areas that they're affecting the county. We are finding out it's becoming pretty huge, how those drainage and detention ponds could be different when we are approving the site. So anything that could help us in the future on those TIFs and added to it, if they want county to support any of their TIFs, to make sure that we're taken care of as well in those. So good food for thought, Commissioner
One
LaCroix.
thing I will pass on, after that meeting, I had a conversation with one of the developers, and they were talking about possibly, Elkville Road's gonna be, there's some changes coming in that area too. When we just approved Bradski's TIF across the street and that development down in there. So, I mean, there is some, if you stop and think about it, it just makes absolute sense. We've had problems with Elkville going down to the soccer complex. The road should be bigger. You know what I mean? It's gonna boom out in that area. And so we need to find ways to work together as far as all of us having a part in the show of this, because Deb as well, we've had that discussion, half was city, half is Box Elder, who's gonna pay what, and we need to just set all that stuff aside and figure out how can we do this instead of saying it's my side, your side. You know, the residents are the losers in this if we don't come together and work on some of this.
Thank you. Thank you, Lloyd. Next is approval of the vouchers, 450 for 1478.
So move.
Moved by Drews, second by LaCroix. Discussion? Roll call, Ms.
DeSanto.
Aye.
Drews.
Aye.
LaCroix.
Aye.
Ross Connect.
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye, motion carries. Next is items from the public. Sir? Your name, sir?
Hi, my name is Phil Olson with Olson Real Estate. I know a few of you folks. Long time no see, back when I was active in the city. I need some help. I'm a real estate broker. I've been a real estate broker since 1997, and I have a couple, Doug and Melody Birkland, who I'm helping buy a piece of property. And there's been a 40-acre plat that's been processed by H&H. It's Pat Hall and Brian Hammerbeck. And it's taken about 4 months. They started this in May. They signed the submittal and received a layout plat approval with conditions in May. And so we've gone through May, June, July, and August. I understand that in June, then, it came back as a preliminary plat. And it was delayed until the end of July. For some reason, I believe it had something to do with, like, not making the agenda or something like that. I don't know. So then it ended up going to the variance board the end of August, which was, I believe, last week. And the Mylar plat is now sitting at the planning director's office. And the sellers have actually taken it out and had it signed by the highway department. So it's now sitting waiting for 3 other signatures, of which I believe one is the register of deeds. All the director would have to do is just walk across and hand them the plat to get the signatures. And I'm hearing from the seller that they could take up to 30 days to have this signed, which I think is a little over the top. I used to hand walk plats through and get them signed. I've probably done, I was just counting on the way down here today, probably between 75 and 80 plats personally. And I've had them signed in the county. And, so at that time, I was real familiar with the process. I can't imagine it's changed significantly, but, the way things are, regulatory are, Things do change, and I just need your help. Could I ask you just to have the director walk across the hallway and get the signatures and get the thing filed? My clients, we've had to, and there's a lot of things that you don't see, but my clients have been delayed twice now. And he works out of town, and I'm just trying to get this thing done. And I would just ask that if you would ask the director just to get it done and not take another 30 days for really no reason.
So, Phil, just from experience, it's not as easy as it sounds. You already know that because she has to review everything that's on there and make sure it's finalized with the other areas that have been on there. That's a huge, huge undertaking in that Rockerville area that they're doing, right? Is that what you're
Oh,
talking about?
it's out here. It's not in Rockerville.
Computer.
It's East Computer.
Okay.
But they've had 90 days to review this.
Well,
You've already gone through a layout and preliminary plat process. All of that's already been done.
well, if
It's a formality.
and I apologize. So the computer one was, some of that was him Pat selling some of that and some of the road and things that were going on with that as well. So,
With the variance, yeah. But
right,
what I'm saying now is we have a Mylar that's done. It
right,
was done to county specs. And she needs to do is walk across the hallway and get it signed.
right. I
And
don't think
file
it's that easy. Colin?
Thank you, Chair. So there's a specific process by which everything has to go through, and if everything has been met with the preliminary plat, then it's just, at this point, academic, but there still has to be, it still has to go through the certain processes, and I don't know, I think it's 30 days or something like that,
Yes.
after it's already done from the variance.
Yes, sir.
So once all the conditions are met, so this board can't force anybody
Oh, I'm not
to
asking
her
him
do
to
that.
force anything. I'm asking him to.
But there just has to be the regulations that have to be followed, and that's the only point that I wanted to make. So thank you guys. Unless you have any questions, I'll sit back down.
I believe I understand the process. And I also believe I understand that it's really that simple. Unless I am completely missing something, which I have before.
Well, she has to go through everything on there that's on that list and then have to be verified with no inspector. We aren't the city. We don't have all those people to verify everything that's on there.
But that's what the whole process is all about anyway. It's to bring it up to that final document. And that final document's there. And, you know, the highway guy's already signed off.
Right.
So anyway, I just didn't want to sit for another 30 days because the 30 days represents nothing other than it could sit on our desk for 30 days.
Hold on,
Sure.
Colin. Commissioner Drews.
So, Phil, I take it that they purchased the property with conditions that it could be replatted? Or
Yes.
who's actually doing them? Is Pat Hall doing
The
them?
seller's doing it, yes.
Seller's doing
Seller's
it?
processing the plan.
Okay. Okay, I hear you.
And I represent the buyer.
Commissioner Ross Connect.
Phil, I'd be more than happy to sit down with you and Brittany, and so that we can have an open dialogue
That'd be
instead
great.
of trying to do this right here. But on a personal basis, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Madam
Very
Chair.
much.
And
Colin.
And if I may, this board, if it took it up, and it's the one that I'm thinking of, it took it up as the Board of Adjustment 2 weeks ago. So it wouldn't be another 30 days from today. And then also I heard a lot of, I heard in this, and what I think we need to go through is from facts. If this is the one that I think happened, it happened at the Board of Adjustment 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
So it'd be 16 days. So there's still plenty of time, and I understand your client's dissatisfaction and wants to get through with the process, but by our regulations, which we have to follow through that SDCL 1138 or whatever it is, we have to follow our own subdivision regulations, and one of those is that she has up to 30 days, I believe, in which to do that. And I understand your frustration, but
Well,
that's just what
keyword's
we
up
have.
to.
I understand that, but it's up to. I'm sorry,
Thank
Mr.
you, Ron,
LaCroix.
for the opportunity.
And Colin works with the planning department, changing the rules and regulations on some of these things. That's why he's speaking. He's our state's attorney's part of the planning department. Commissioner LaCroix.
Well, first of all, thanks for bringing it to our attention, Phil, and thank Ron for stepping up and saying, let's just sit down and air this out. I think that's a good way to deal with it. I am no expert on this, but I'm assuming just as you guys sit down, more information is going to come out on both sides. You know, that's just like I didn't know, you know, with that variance, you know, the seller's part of the condition says he's got to get some things done. One of them was the variance, and one of those was the variance. You know, I don't know if it's 30 days after that variance, but I know that was postponed a couple times, but not because of us, but because of the applicant wanted it delayed 2 weeks. So that was part of it. I do remember that, but please, I'll get with Ron afterwards, and we'll see how this works out. But it's always good when you guys decide to come into the room and get on both sides.
Thanks. Bottom line
thank
is,
you.
Phil, you've been around this process for a long time, city and county, and it's not always the next day. So it's usually depends on what the issues are. Like Colin is saying, is if they checked all the boxes and stuff. Some things are a lot more simplified than others. So Roskinek is going to work with you on that. If you need my help or any of the commissioners after that, you can call us.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Roskinek.
Yeah, this sit-down session would be more to bring me up to speed so that I can understand the process. I don't know that I can change anything. We still have to follow rules and regulations, but just so I understand if this happens again, so I can be better informed myself.
It seemed like there was some confusion through this process, through this plating process. And I sense that did occur. I didn't inject myself in it as a result of that. I represent the buyers. And I just didn't want to sit there and languish for another 30 days for no reason. So,
Right.
again, if I'm missing something, I'll be educated, and it won't be the first time.
It's all good, Phil. You do a lot of development. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Let's see if we can find that solution for you, sir.
Catch up to you. Thanks.
I'll reach out to you, Phil.
Okay, do we have a motion to go in executive session?
So moved.
Second.
SDCL 1-20-2. Motion by Drews, second by LaCroy. Ms. Kara?
Apparently for personnel issues and contractual
Yes.
pending.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews?
Aye.
LaCroy?
Aye.
Roskinek?
Aye.
Hancock? Aye. Motion carries. SDCL 1-25-2, like I said, and 1-25-3. Hold on just a sec. We have to come back out of executive session. Is there a
moved.
motion? Moved by LaCroy,
Second.
second by Drews. Roll call.
Mark?
Aye.
Aye.
Gary? Lloyd?
Aye.
Deb?
Deb Hancock?
Aye. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Okay, first motion, Gary.
To approve back pay for correctional officer Caleb Billings, amount of $885.47 for regular and overtime hours between January 27th, 2020 and August 15th, 2020.
Motion by Drews,
Second.
second by LaCroy. Roll call, please.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Aye.
Drews, LaCroy,
Aye.
Roskinek, Hadcock.
Aye. Motion carries. Next one, Gary.
Make a motion to approve back pay for correctional officer Robert Snyder, amount of $905.02 for regular and overtime hours between January 27th, 2020 and August 22nd, 2020.
Second
Motion
by
by-
DeSanto.
Motion by LaCroy, second by DeSanto.
Yeah.
Okay. Holly?
Roll call. DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Roskinek.
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye. Motion carries. Do you have any other motions? Yeah, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Drews, second by LaCroy. Roll call.
DeSanto,
Aye.
Drews,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Roskinek.
Aye.
Hadcock.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thanks for joining us, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.